Hello, everyone. Welcome to Popcast on the Rocks, episode 98. We're a pop culture show that talks about pop culture things, and sometimes there's whiskey.
Mhm.
My name is John, and I am joined as always by Andrea as I very carefully do that intro and I added an extra pop to again. It's amazing how that almost stumbles me. I was like, I'm adding an extra pop somewhere, and yeah, got to get that sorted.
Well done, well done. You made it through.
Yeah.
Poppity pop.
Yeah. Yeah, where's Emily in the chat? Throw in a few more
Yeah.
pop. Um, yeah. Well, anyways, yeah, we're gonna talk later tonight about the Batman. Hopefully everybody's seen it, but if you have not, never fear, we won't be discussing that until later. Before we get there, we got a few news stories, quite a few actually,
Mhm.
and drink holidays, right?
Yes, we do, as always. We're bringing it back to some that were celebrated previously, but we haven't mentioned on the podcast yet. March 3rd, National Moscow Mule Day, one of my favorite days. So cheers to that.
Cheers.
We're drink
Yeah.
twinsies. We
Clink.
tried so hard last
Yeah.
week and it didn't happen,
Hmm.
and now it did.
Well, tried so hard, like telepathically, not
Mhm.
not in any actual sense, I guess.
Right, right. But we made it happen this week, John. We manifested that
Yep,
energy, and now we're
that's right.
twinsies.
Yep.
Some other ones that apparently you and I aren't celebrating, but you all could. March 5th, it was National Absinthe Day. Be careful if you celebrate that one. March 8th was International Women's Collaboration Brew Day. So if you're picking
So
out a brew,
specific.
yeah, so if you're picking out a brew to celebrate, it was International Women's Day on March 8th. So therefore, try to pick one that's owned and operated potentially by women. So
There it is,
cheers to
3
that.
holidays. Yeah,
Yep.
cheers.
Those are our three holidays. Of course, probably the most infamous drink holiday that March is known for is coming up this week, obviously in
Right.
St. Patrick's Day. But we're not there
Yes.
yet. Soon.
Yeah, right. I'll do a, St. Patrick's Day live stream. It's, get I don't know what
I
we'll do. We'll
almost
watch the Boondock Saints and
oh god, yes. Great movie. I'm down for that. I haven't seen that in quite a while. Um, I was realizing this the other day. It sort of hit me when she was born, but not really. It's hitting me more now that she's turning 1. I almost had a daughter born on St. Patrick's Day, March 16th.
Mm,
So close.
yeah,
So close.
yeah. But you don't really want that, right? Because you don't want the birthday taken over by. That's why I was thinking,
Well,
like someone's born on Christmas or whatever.
yeah, I feel like
Oh, their
Christmas is
gifts will
harder
just
though.
yeah,
'Cause it's like you already get presents for Christmas, and it's such, like, a big holiday that everybody's thinking
yeah,
about. St. Patrick's Day is a little less present-oriented, so you could still get, like, your birthday gifts, and it wouldn't be like, "Here's your combination birthday Christmas." Like,
yeah, right.
"You son of a bitch. I want 2 presents."
I'll cut it in half then. There you go, 2.
Wow, that's some, like, King Solomon style, like, "Just cut it in half."
Yeah, yeah.
Uh.
All right. Well, what have you been up to this week? Anything
Honestly,
crazy?
not a whole lot in terms of the entertainment world. We've been watching some more Explained on Netflix, and that was pretty
Mm.
fun. Got to some cool episodes. I know we were talking about the one that I watched on chess the other week, and that was a fun one. We watched one on dance crazes. Um,
Oh,
everything that like goes around TikTok and like how does that get started and who benefits from that. Like, if you started a dance but you're not a very popular influencer, and then an influencer takes over your dance and gets to monetize from it, who gets copyright? And apparently copyright around choreography and dance is so loose in the US. There's basically almost no dances that can be copyrighted. I mean,
mm.
there are some, but it's very few because it's very, very specific around what constitutes
Yeah.
a copyrightable, like, move or set of moves.
Yeah, that's gotta be pretty tough. So
Yeah.
It's my mind went to like the involuntary dancing craze. I don't remember the year or whatever that it took place, but
Mhm.
allegedly, in some village, some people would literally dance until they would drop dead.
Oh my
And so it
god.
kind of started to spread before all of a sudden the whole, like, courtyard or whatever was full of people that
Yeah.
were dancing until they're wearing holes in their shoes or their feet are bloody or whatever.
Sure,
And
sure.
they ended up, like, wrangling people up and bringing them to some church and doing some sort of mass, like, blessing thing or whatever to solve the whole thing.
Whoa.
So,
That is a crazy story. I've never heard that before.
yeah, yeah, of course, there's debate on, what is the cause,
Mhm.
yeah, whether, how much is real? Were people trying to, like, get out of doing something,
Mm,
did it start
sure.
as seeking attention, but how did it, it wasn't a thing where people were just like, well, I get tired and now I go home. It was
Right.
like, no, I'm collapsing. And,
Right. I'm
so
injuring
yeah.
myself.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It kinda, yeah, it spurred me to get this book about, like, um, just different mass hysterias and stuff that have been documented throughout history or whatever, so
Yeah,
but
that's really
that's
interesting.
very different options for dance, related
Dance
topic.
crazes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it was fun. I
Renato's in
mean,
the chat. Just wanna say, "Hey, Renato, thanks for jumping in."
hey, how's it going? Um, yeah, it was really fun. I also learned that there was kind of a section about like the rise of the music video and how much dance played into releasing a song then. You wanted to create a video
Mm.
with like a dance move that was patented or like dances that people could do because then they felt more connected to your song. Um, and I learned that Psy, when he released Gangnam Style, literally broke YouTube. I did not know this. Like, his video was watched so much that YouTube, like, broke and had to shut down while they, like, got a
Mm.
bigger processor to, like,
More
accommodate the
servers,
number of
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, I didn't know that. I didn't know it was like I mean, I knew it was, like, the craze that, like, swept the
Yeah.
world and, but I just didn't realize, like, how big that actually was, so
Well, and if you think about it, you know, um, every once in a while, a platform or a type of media or something has some sort of blow up moment. You have it
Mhm.
at different times. A new merch someplace is released, and then the site is not capable and ready to handle the traffic that it receives.
Sure.
And so it has to do some upgrades. But even when Gangnam Style came out, I mean, YouTube obviously had been around. People used it for watching, like you say, music videos and looking up stuff. But I feel like now, even that short span of time, YouTube is so much more prevalent.
Yeah.
There's so much more content. There's just, um, it really is amazing to see how that platform and the way we consume media has changed. Just even
Right.
from that example. But
Right. Yeah, obviously, I feel like YouTube's probably a little bit more equipped or prepared to handle that kind of surge now.
now, yeah.
Yeah. Not that I know that there's going to be another one, but law of averages, there's
Yeah.
probably going to
I
be
mean, how
something in the
many
future.
right, but how many people would be required to break it now? Like,
I
to
know.
overload? I don't know.
That would be the
It'd be a lot.
fascinating part of it. Yeah. So
Huh.
yeah, so that was fun to watch. It also tied in a little bit of gaming because it was talking about how Fortnite has, monetized, like, dance moves. You can buy dance moves for your avatar to
Yes.
do,
Right.
and some people had sued them saying, like, "My move is copyrighted." Most famously, Alfonso Ribeiro was suing them for using the Carlton, and he
Mhm.
lost
Yeah.
because they said that the Carlton couldn't be wasn't long enough to constitute like
Oh,
a
that's interesting.
choreographed, only 3 moves wasn't enough to be considered like a choreographed move set. And then they also said, "Hey, you can't copyright it after the fact." So, he lost, and I thought that that was interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah, it
expect that
is.
outcome.
I mean, we gotta start dance NFTs.
Yeah.
It's because would that see, but that would be it's still
Make
not
sure
the
we
dance.
copyright them.
It's you're right, because it's still not copyrighting the dance. Still, then it's the file that you're
Mhm.
selling,
Mhm.
the digital asset,
Right. Not
mm,
but
not
yeah,
what's happening in it.
but what does it contain? Are you
Mhm.
selling what it contains?
Hmm, hmm.
Anyway, so yeah, that was a particularly, again,
Sure.
fascinating episode for me, because
Yeah.
I not only did it bring in entertainment and, kind of the platforms that we talk about, but also gaming, of course, so it's a fun episode. I have bowed down to peer pressure, and I am now one of the masses who are enjoying the terribly trashy reality show Love Is Blind.
Okay.
It's awful. It's so awful, and yet I watch it. I love it. It's trash, and I love it. It's really
Which
great.
one so is that a Netflix one too?
Yep, it's a Netflix one. It's where so it's hosted by Nick Lachey and his wife Vanessa, um, formerly Manilo. Uh, and they set up a bunch of singles, like I think it's 12 singles, might be more. And they only talk to each other through pods, like a very slim barrier in like these potted chambers.
Okay.
And they have no distractions. They have no phones, no computers, so they can't look each other up on Google or whatever.
Right.
Um, and or on any social media. And then they like presumably fall in love, pick someone. Hopefully it's reciprocal. I don't know what happens if, nobody finds someone, I guess. They haven't really covered that as far as I've watched
They
yet.
leave crying, yeah.
I mean, it could happen. But then they get engaged. They like, are kind of in a super short term intense relationship. They get engaged. And then they're flown off to like a resort somewhere with the other engaged couples from the show, and they kind of sit back and see like, hey, is your relationship going to last now that you're out in the world? Is your relationship going to last because maybe you formed like deep bonds with other people, but you ultimately thought like, no, this other person is my soulmate. Now if you meet that other person again, are you going to be tested and tempted to stray? So yeah, it's very interesting. It's an interesting experiment, but it feels creepy watching these people do it. You know what I mean? Like, it's an interesting experiment in
They don't pull the
theory.
camera away then when
What?
they're doing it? Oh,
Oh, no, 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 I just meant, like, I watching these
got
people,
it.
like, participate in the experiment. Oh, boy.
Yeah.
They do the classic, like, fade out when
Yeah,
somebody's
yeah.
about to get intimate. The famous, like, blur out. Um, but yeah, it feels like a really interesting topic that I would be interested to read about, but watching it happen feels a little cringe sometimes.
Okay. Well, Renato says he's watched some of it and mostly just read a recap or spoilers of it too,
Oh,
so
yeah.
maybe, yeah,
So
maybe
it's
you do just wanna
10 and 10, but they
read it.
focus on, like, yeah. So, yeah, that's the thing. They, like, have more people. I know there's more people in there, but they just keep focusing on, like, these several main couples. So my mind immediately is like, "Where are the other people? Like, where did they go? Did they get engaged and their lives are just, like, not that interesting? Or did they not get engaged and just, like, leave?" I don't know.
So, it's not really a pop culture related question then, I suppose,
Sure.
but it is like the state of our world. Is it do you find it a problem that people, if they meet someone, then go to look them up? Like, because obviously it's a state
Ooh.
here where is so there, as you mentioned, I don't have that ability. Is that a bad thing that we do that and we don't just judge people based on their interactions or
I don't think it's a bad thing, but I don't think it should be your only indicator for someone. And I say this having watched this show not terribly long after I watched The Tinder Swindler, which is
Mm,
basically a bunch of women who met this
right.
guy, looked him up on social media and was like, "Oh, he's like, the son of a diamond, tycoon,
Yeah.
and he's so fancy, and look at his social media. It's so reassuring because he travels and he works and he's, having fun. Clearly he was able to create all of this fake crap. So, and have many women buy into it. So, yeah, I don't think it's a problem that we look people up to see who they are, but I also wouldn't trust it wholly because it can be
Right.
faked just like many other things. So,
Well, and yeah, so Renato says he dated online. I looked up every single person.
yeah.
So my question then is that a good idea, Renato? Would that work out for you, or do you find that that was beneficial? Because even if something is not faked, I don't know. I mean, we are we are what we do and what we put forth in the world, and we social media is included in that, I guess,
Mhm.
um, but people can come across as very different people on social media and what their online presence is versus in person. And we are multifaceted. So like,
Mhm.
are you? I don't know. I mean, I understand. I think everybody's gonna do it if they meet someone and they're gonna look them up on social media. Like that's not.
Mhm.
It's good. That's what's gonna happen. Ultimately, I'm just wondering if it's the best for society or not.
Yeah. I think I think it can be problematic, absolutely. Um, I think there are different kinds of social media posters. If you're someone who like lives for social media, then yeah, you're only seeing, maybe a crafted side of yourself that's not really real,
Right.
that's like the best, most perfect version of your life or potential version of your life. Um, and it can create, a very false sense of intimacy because you think you're seeing somebody, but you're really only seeing a very like one-sided
Curated
part of
element.
them,
Yeah.
curated. Yeah. Um, and I mean, on the flip side, even if you are, kind of a very real poster, I think I'm more of a real poster. I post, just like random things. I don't always look my best, or I don't always, post things that are like super exciting, but they're things I care about. Um, Even if, you look somebody like me up where, they are posting their very real life, it could still give you a false sense of intimacy and a false sense of knowing them without actually putting the work in to get to know them. You're like, "Oh, this
Right.
is just like a shorthand for getting to know you. Now I
Yeah.
know who you are." So it's
That's interesting.
problematic
Yeah.
in a lot of different ways.
Yeah. I didn't think of that because yeah, you treat the person differently feeling like you know them before
Mhm.
you do. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. I didn't think of that. Hmm. Well, it's not something that I'm personally concerned with or
Mhm.
you either. So we
No,
don't
I'm
have an issue
good.
there. Yeah.
But
But
it
yeah,
is an interesting
it is.
question, and obviously
Yeah.
this show is a very interesting experiment of what do we do when we're without it, and then what do we do when we get it back?
Yeah.
How does
Hmm.
that change us and change our relationships with someone? So, yes, like it is a very trashy show, but it explores an interesting question, just probably not in the greatest way.
Right. Um, Well, I'll just that'd be going down more.
More rabbit
I'm gonna
holes
keep.
upon rabbit
Yeah,
holes.
I know it's like not relevant at all. So okay.
Yeah.
Um,
So
okay.
that's
Well,
yeah, those are a couple things I've watched this week, and obviously my biggest one that we're gonna talk about later is the Batman.
nice, nice. All right. Yeah, I didn't watch any trashy shows, TV shows this week. I get well, not trashy in that
Missing
sense,
out.
anyways. I did see. So Ashley's watching, what is it, 90 Day Fiance and stuff. So, but I think
Sure.
that was last week or whatever. So, um, let's see more anime. So I'm a little behind because I'm just watching the English versions of these shows. So Don't Toy With Me, Miss Nagatoro. Watch episodes 6 through 9. Episode 9 just came out this
Nice.
weekend, and
So you're
um,
all caught up.
it's so good. It's so much. It's just a lot of fun.
Okay.
Um, Really liking it. I had a discussion recently with um Mike, has been on here and stuff about
Mhm.
like, and it's going around online too about the way that like characters, particularly high schoolers or even middle schoolers, can be portrayed in anime and stuff like that. And so like I don't know, there's a room for discussion in there somewhere if we want some time with like
Absolutely.
this show and also My Dress Up Darling. Watched episode 7 of that. Um, Also very good. Um, those two shows are similar in ways, but different enough that yeah, I don't know. They're both a lot of fun. Totally
Okay.
recommend. So, um, Forbidden West, Horizons Forbidden West. Play more of that. Not too much, but I'm like slowly making progress. And then the Batman as well. Managed to just squeeze that in. I didn't know
Woohoo.
if I was gonna make it or not, but yeah, just got that done. I'm gonna ignore Renato's last comment. We're just gonna move right
I knew
past
it.
that.
I knew it. I saw it and was just like, oh no. John's so mad right now.
No, it's all right. Yeah, different strokes,
Through
different
clenched
strokes.
teeth. That's all right. That's all right. It's fine. I'm doing so good.
Mhm, mhm. All right, some news. We finally
Oh,
got
does he
a
get some redemption with his next comment? Give him some
but I'm
love.
gonna okay, I'm gonna fill the viewers in here. Renato in chat says he fit in all caps, by the way. I finished live action Bebop. My response is just, "I'm sorry. Unfortunate." And but then he's gonna start the anime next. Okay,
Mhm.
that was his plan. So do report back what you
Mhm.
think going in that direction, you know,
Yeah.
um, for sure. So yeah. News. Kenobi. The Kenobi
Yes.
limited series coming to Disney Plus.
Mhm.
It's coming out pretty soon, I think in May. And
May. Mhm.
so yeah, it's surprising it took this long to get a trailer, but we did get one. Did you
Mhm.
watch it?
I did watch it. I am fascinated with this show because I knew nothing about its arrival. Like, it came out
Oh,
of
okay.
left field.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like, I know
Sure.
we'd seen quite a while back that, not quite a while, I mean, back in December, January, I think they announced Kenobi, but I didn't know, like, leading up to it. I felt like usually there's more, like, build up, there's more, like, online chatter, like,
Yeah.
Kenobi is happening, it's gonna be a, thing, and it just feels like we keep getting these, like, very random blips of, like, "Here it is," with not a lot of other surrounding media
Mhm.
blitz, and I
Wasn't
feel like
there
this is a big thing.
I mean, didn't we talk about, like, Hayden Christensen coming back a while ago?
We did when
No?
they had first, like, dropped that, like, "Hey, Kenobi limited series is happening," and we were like,
But
"What?"
I get what you're saying. There's been no where are we in the process,
Yes, yes.
Right.
So, I don't know what that says about, like, Disney's media campaign going on around it, if they're excited, not, or if they're just, like, trying so hard to keep everything secret that, like, nothing is being talked about.
Mhm.
I'm just not sure where to, like, fall on the, like, "Am I excited about this? Is this good?" Or is Disney sort of like, "Shit, this was a good idea we had to follow up on, but now it's just being released. Here it is."
Well, and that's, so yeah, I was gonna ask then if this had you more excited because you haven't really followed The Mandalorian or the Book of Boba Fett much. So
Mhm.
like if this was something that was gonna pull you back in or
This would be the thing for sure. I really liked Ewan McGregor's portrayal of Kenobi. Um, see, look, not all of
Pete's
episodes
heart
1 through
rate
3 are bad.
elevated somewhere. Yeah.
I did. I enjoyed it very much, and I would love to see the story of between, you know, Star Wars movies where did Kenobi go and what did he do and how did he become the weird old man in the desert.
Okay.
I love it. I love this like limited series premise and I love Ewan McGregor, so yeah, go take a shot at it.
Okay. All right. I mean, I thought they put together, yeah, it was a good,
It was a good trailer.
yeah, it was a entertaining trailer. Um, I mean, like I said, I'm out on Star Wars, so you'll have
Mhm.
to let me know how it is. But
Mhm.
it's, I
I'm really
read
hoping.
comments.
Oh, sorry,
Oh,
go
go ahead.
ahead. Oh,
Um,
I was just gonna say I'm really hoping for something that's Star Wars but doesn't touch any Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett timeline, storyline,
hmm,
anything. Like completely separate. Separate it out
okay,
because I think that's what this needs.
okay. I'm trying to find the quote.
Read online
So,
somewhere.
yeah, so it was one of the concerning things to me, I guess. Um,
Mhm.
there is this show had a delay, and they had a bunch of rewrites that happened to it, and so we were like, "Oh, what's
Mm.
happening there?"
Yeah.
And apparently, Kathleen Kennedy was talking to Entertainment Weekly, and they shifted what they were looking for. They decided the show was too dark and wanted
Hmm.
something more hopeful and uplifting, quote unquote,
Okay.
hopeful and uplifting. So, she says, in quote, and it's tricky when you're starting with a character in the state of Obi-Wan would be in
Hmm.
coming off of Revenge of the Sith. That's a
Yeah.
pretty
Total
bleak period of
devastation.
time. Can't just wave a magic wand with any writer and arrive at a story that is necessary that necessarily reflects what you want to feel, unquote. So
Hmm.
it's, I don't know. I mean, like, to me, it's like you have this time period and you have, right, the story that it is. So shouldn't you be
Hmm.
approaching it with not the story you want to tell, but the story that is there?
Ooh, I mean, that's tricky, I think, because any story is a story you want to tell, hopefully. But yes, you should balance that out with where the character is at, especially if they're a previously existing character.
Hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't see anything wrong with like I would like for Obi-Wan to end up here, and maybe that's a more hopeful place. Um, and it seems maybe unrealistic at the start of his journey, but if you like start it along and it when you're writing it out, if the character, follows that and it seems organic, sure. If it doesn't, then yeah, you're gonna have to change your story.
Hmm.
So I so
Yeah.
I
I think.
don't I think that it's a good thing to go in with the mindset of I want this to be the end goal, but you have to be fluid.
Hmm. Yeah. I think that this area of Star Wars has been explored a number of times with the game Jedi Fallen Order. We have
Mm, sure.
animated series Star Wars Rebels. We get a bit of Kenobi in there. We've had comics and stuff like that. And I think that there is this temptation they really want to see. I don't know that this should be called Kenobi, is what I'm thinking, because how
Mm,
much are you going to be giving Obi-Wan to do in this setting and place? I think they're going to have to change dramatically. The idea is that Obi-Wan guarded Luke. His
mhm,
task was, here's the kid, we're going to make sure I stay unknown and unseen, and he stays unknown and unseen. And so
mhm,
that's kind of limiting in terms of what he can do and where a show can go. So they're going to have to branch dramatically to other places
mhm,
and people to cover, because the trailer shows Inquisitors. So really maybe the
right.
show is more about the hunt for Kenobi, but also any remaining Jedi. We've seen that during the
Yeah,
time. This is the great whatever that Vader has these Inquisitors, and they're combing the galaxy looking for any other Force sensitives to destroy, and anyone else that
mhm,
was left. So
mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree with that. I mean, the trailer does seem to hint that that's the premise of
Hmm.
the story, and maybe, yeah, maybe calling it Kenobi is wrong. for a title, even though obviously calling it Kenobi would appeal to any like more fringe or light Star Wars fans because of course you recognize Kenobi. You're not gonna
Yep.
not gonna maybe tune in for a show that's called like The Inquisitors or The Jedi Hunt or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it's just
Mhm.
not gonna pull you the way that like calling it Kenobi will. On the flip side of that, is it a mistitle? Like we talked about The Birds of Prey and The Fantabulous
Yeah.
Emancipation of Harley Quinn. That movie is about Harley Quinn. Like put
Yes.
her first because then we won't go in thinking this is a movie about birds of prey. So it could be the one of those kind of titles where I, maybe you, but probably I watch it and say this is a wrong title.
Yeah. Well, and the same, I mean, even Lucas themselves then did that with Book of Boba Fett.
Mhm.
Like the book, when you just say the Book of Boba Fett, to me, that really sounds like, the biography of Boba Fett,
Right.
the life and tales of Boba Fett. And
Right.
that's a pretty long and dramatic thing or whatever. Well, everything that people liked about that show had nothing to do with Boba Fett. The show
True.
completely flipped midway through. So it's I don't know. I think if the universe and the IP is in a good place, that doesn't matter what the show is called, so long as what it's called is not deceptive, so long as it's properly titled. Like, yes, it will pull in some more people that are maybe not as involved if it says Kenobi. But I just
Mhm.
think that if the IP is in a great place, it won't matter. Like people will just be too Marvel. People just go to whatever's Marvel. It's the Marvel thing. I don't know anything about it, but I'm going because it's the
Yeah,
Marvel thing. You know?
but that's isn't that marketing as a whole? Like it's they don't release Shang-Chi, they release Marvel universe. Like Marvel is everywhere. Marvel
Yeah.
Shang-Chi. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? Or we were just talking about this for Ridley Scott. It's Ridley Scott's Raised by Wolves. Even though Ridley Scott has basically nothing to do with it anymore. It's a name recognition. They're now just taking it an extra step further potentially in the title, in mistitling, not just leaving it as like Star Wars, you know, Kenobi. It's like, "Oh, it's Kenobi." So that way we're gonna pull you in even though we're telling a different story. Do you know what I'm trying to
But it
say?
could be it could be blank a Star Wars tale. They
Yeah,
do that with
it
all,
could be. It
yeah.
could be. I'm just saying they're taking it the next step further
Yeah.
potentially. We feel that about, like Book of Boba Fett and we feel that about, Birds of Prey. We don't know. Maybe Kenobi is the same way. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's more involved with him than we think it is. But it is
Yeah.
hard to tell from the trailer.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's coming pretty soon. So
It is.
for everybody interested, there it will be. Um, coming less soon, but still on
Mm.
its way. Another television show, The Boys season 3.
Now this
I
was a trailer.
Oh,
Yo.
so you did watch it. Okay. I didn't know as I
Yeah, I
posted
did.
spoilers because I'm just like in
I'm
case.
okay. I'm
All
okay.
right.
They did
Okay.
it in a like spoilers, but it's so brief. It's not like
It's
extended.
not. No.
No, no, no,
I
no.
don't know.
Like each cut scene is so brief that like it's spoilers, but it's not like an extended scene of like here's all the
No.
things. You know what I
No.
mean? So I enjoy that kind of like teaser of like, what was that? What was that? What was that?
It was well done. I just
Well done.
I knew it
Major
I
spoiler though.
lost some right. I lost some surprises because of it, so
I did,
that's too
yes.
bad.
But I'm kind of okay with it because I was intrigued enough by the big reveal to be like, "Oh, happened. What are they gonna do about that?
Mm,
Oh my god, what does this mean for the mission?" It pulled me in personally. It
okay.
could it could warn other people off. It could disappoint other people that they know that turn is
Mhm.
coming. For me, it made me more
Just
excited.
made you more excited? Okay.
Yes.
Alright.
I am going to warn Chris if he wants to watch it, that there is a
Okay,
huge,
yeah.
huge, huge spoiler because he's such a fan of The
I
Boys
just
as well. I'm gonna warn him that there's a huge major spoiler in it, and watch it or don't. with
Mhm.
caution because,
Yep.
yeah, if that's the kind of thing that would make you mad, it will make you mad.
I do have to say though that I guess ultimately I'm glad I saw it because um I was a little cooler to season 2 than the season 1.
Sure.
So, getting this trailer for, season 3 kind of like, okay, I wanna it got me
Back
ready
in
to
it.
see it again,
Mhm.
still always concerned where it's gonna go or whatever, but it was a well-cut trailer. It looks like a lot of interesting
Excellent
things could
music.
happen, so, yeah,
Mhm.
yep. Renata
I wanna
says it's gonna be
say
the first episode spoiler, right? Yeah, it certainly could be, and then they deal with it the whole season, yeah,
could
for
be.
sure.
I gotta say just a couple things about The Boys. Um, Side note to that, um, Amazon Prime has a animated series, short series right now,
Yeah.
on the Boys universe, on their platform right now, which I did not know existed. I think I found out like last week, so I need to go see that. But if you want to get like in the mindset, it sounds like that's the way to go. Um, Talking about the trailer though, number 1, glad to see Homelander is just as freaking weird as he always is. He had
Yep.
several
Mhm.
scenes that were just like, "Oh god, you big weirdo." Um, 2, this is not a spoiler because it's been out there forever, but just in case, spoiler, Jensen Ackles as Soldier Boy looks great. He looks fun. He looks crazy and twisted, and I think he's just gonna fit right in that universe. 3, this season looks like very colorful. Do you know what
Okay.
I'm saying? Like just the brief impressions I got from the trailer, everything was very colorful, poppy, like kind of almost in a not so gritty, dark place as some of the other seasons have been. Like season 1 was so like dark and gritty, even the colors felt very muted when you were
Mhm.
watching it, and now this looks, extra bright. So I don't know if they're like shifting a tone, if that's going to be like this season's just going to be kind of a different focus, but I just
Be
noted
f
that in the trailer.
be nice if it was a little more fun maybe, you
Yeah,
know? And don't get too dark
but
all the
in the
time. It can
fun
still
there's
be
just such
bloody and stuff.
weirdness. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, they made that very clear from the trailer as
Yeah.
well. It's still going to be bloody.
Yep.
But yeah, there could be more like fun humorous storylines to go with the
Yep.
gore.
I was gonna bring this up too, and Renata mentioned in chat here that the Homelander actor was arrested not long ago. Got in some sort of
Oh.
bar fight. So,
Oh, no. Well, at least he doesn't have laser eyes in real life to melt someone in that bar fight.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I haven't heard, you know, what really
Whoopsie.
came of that or anything. Just yeah, that was the initial story, and I haven't heard anything since. So, but yeah, I
Whoopsie.
think that was June or something. June or
Okay.
July is coming. So, this show premieres. So
Yeah,
not
it's
too long.
June. Yep.
Okay. All right, sticking on, well, not sticking on it. I guess it's a completely different kind of subject, but the PlayStation event, it kind of announced a
Yeah.
state of play, and did you get to see any of the stuff that was announced at this or
I got
any
to
of the
see
event?
clips, but I did not tune into the event, unfortunately.
Okay, no, it's not a big deal. It was, to me, pretty underwhelming, but I think it was just what we have to expect now. You're just gonna get these
Mhm.
things. They have some stuff that's for someone, to get someone excited, and then,
Some of
a
this I
bunch
feel
of
like I've
it's
seen
mostly
before. Some of it looks newer.
yes. Yeah, I mean,
A
they show
combo.
new footage for Ghostwire Tokyo and new
Sure.
footage for, Stranger in Paradise, and then announced a demo, new footage for Forspoken, like, a lot of
Okay.
it was stuff that has been shown before, but,
Mhm.
not all of it. It opened with Exo Primal, which was a new IP,
Yeah.
um, and then the big surprise to me that was cool was the Ninja Turtles collection.
Mhm.
Um, Konami's putting out this collection of classic Ninja Turtle games. I don't know, it's more than 10 games or something like that. And you
Nice.
can save and, adding some modern features to them and whatnot. So, and I think it's gonna
That's
be a
awesome.
$40 game, and yeah, and no one was expecting it, so that'll be fun.
Nice. Yes.
And then Returnal gets a DLC mode, like with a different mode that allows you to play co-op together with
Oh,
someone.
cool.
So yeah,
So some
so
fun stuff. Were those
yeah,
kind of your highlights
yeah.
from
I mean, there's a
the
few
presentation?
JRPGs that didn't like strike me as something that I was really really interested in.
Mhm.
Some other stuff I'd already seen. Ghostwire Tokyo, I think, is looking really great. I think that could be really fun. So, but I
Sure.
don't need to see more of that either. It was kind of getting. We're gonna get to that point with where we were at with Deathloop, where it's just like, okay, already. I don't need to see Deathloop again.
Right. I'm
You
sold.
know?
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Right. So, um, okay. Back to movies and television and stuff. Um, Actually, I should switch these around. Let's stick to game.
Yep.
No, okay,
Let's
stick
do
to
it.
games for a second. All right. So, just as we had mentioned a couple weeks ago, because we've been talking about consolidation in the gaming industry and all that stuff, and again, me not being super concerned about it. We talked about some former Witcher CDPR devs leaving to make their own
Mhm.
studio, and they're making a new game. Now we have another one. Ikumi Nakamura is a woman that first showed up on stage for Ghostwire Tokyo. That like
Mhm.
people became aware of her and stuff, and um, her social media blew up and everything. And then she left the company and had a kid and everything. Well, now she's starting her own uh, game studio, and it's called Unseen. And she's pulling in a bunch of talent from wherever, all over. And she
Mhm.
like says she likes paranormal, horror things and all that. So probably be something in that vein. But yeah, I just think more good news,
I was gonna say, isn't
talented
this like the
person.
best
Just
news in the face of, this kind of
yeah.
conglomeration that's happening, this,
Mhm.
centralization of gaming systems, and yeah, it's the best news. People are responding to me saying like, "No, not for me. Like I'm going to go on my own independent studio."
Yeah. And this will continue to happen unless it's the regulated where they can't or something. So you get people that
Right.
they get tired of working someplace and they make good relationships somewhere else, or I can imagine there's a talented developers at studios that all they do is make Call of Duty games, or they're stuck on some MMORPG forever and they
Mhm.
want something fresh. Well, they can just branch out and start their own thing if they have a
Yeah.
vision.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what she brings to the table.
Mhm.
So before we switch back into movies, then stay on gaming and go. I wanted to bring this up because it's everywhere. We don't generally get very political here, but it's a current topic, I guess. Just seeing that almost everyone, is jumping on board with leaving Russia in the
Mhm.
gaming space. So we've got Microsoft, Take-Two Interactive, Ubisoft, Electronic Arts, Activision,
Yeah.
Epic Games, CDPR, Blooper Team, Supercell, CI Games, all of them and
Mhm.
more have decided to, in one way or another, cut ties. And
Mhm.
so this is want to see what you thought of it. Want to give my 2 cents. My 2 cents is just that I don't see this being particularly helpful. It's ultimately just hurting people that don't have anything to do with anything. Nintendo just now they announced it's not their doing, but people can't buy stuff from the Nintendo eShop right now because the payment service that they used was shut
Mhm.
down. So now
Mm.
Nintendo can't sell games on
I
their
see.
eShop because that payment system said no, we're backing out. And it's having other effects now as well. Russia is reportedly legalizing some forms of piracy. So they're like, okay, if you go and you steal whatever game or whatever you want, we're not going to come after you. Go for it. Um, so it's just a mess, and I don't think that, to me anyways, these companies aren't sending the message they think they're sending. All they're doing is taking people that you know innocent people at home that maybe are trying to do something to keep their sanity or whatever, and now they can't, besides the other things in the world, like people getting backed up at train stations because their Apple Pay and Google Pay have been shut off, or
Mhm.
like they can't buy food because their credit card companies are saying nope, we're not doing business here anymore, and like
Mhm.
all this sort of thing. On top of that, you take the entertainment space and say
Mhm.
no. So,
Mhm. Yeah, that I read several different articles, kind of talking about sanctions more broadly, than
mhm,
just the gaming sector, and that is the danger of sanctions. Like sanctions that
yeah,
aren't leveled at a country but are more leveled at the everyday citizen. That's the dual-edged sword. On the one hand, you hope that what you're doing is making things like this difficult so that everyday citizens push back against their government saying like, listen, knock it off, we don't support the war, like you have to stop this, we don't want it anymore, because look at all of what's happening, look at the repercussions that we, your people, are facing. And then they do what they can to exert their influence so that this stops, or somehow, it seems unlikely in Russia's current political system, but in perhaps a democratic system, they would elect somebody else who says, I'm pulling out of the war. Yeah, it's not going to happen under me. We're going to reopen our country. So the idea is to aim at the everyday citizen so that they can use their political power to influence those in political power. The double-edged sword obviously comes in where A, you might be hurting those people in more ways than just like taking away their gaming space. You use the example of like, oh, my bank is now closed off. I can't pay my rent or I can't buy food. What am I going to do? Ideally, it would again force them to say like, I want you to stop the war right now. Logically, in the short term, you would say that person is now hurting. Um, So yeah, so that's part of like the double-edged sword when you're wielding things like that, is this is the intended effect that you want, but this is the on the opposite side, this is the more harmful outcome you could have. So I don't really know that this is the right avenue to go if you're, thinking I want to do something to exert pressure on this country to stop invading another. On the other hand, is this somebody's, ideological line that they feel firm about, like, we would do a lot of things if, Russia was doing something else, but I can't condone our company doing business with in a country that's invading for another. It's so complicated to me.
yeah, it definitely is. I also don't like the hypocrisy. So, we can't dare to do business in this country right now,
Mhm.
but we'll do business in China and assist the Communist Party there. We'll do
Mhm.
business in Saudi Arabia, who's
Yeah.
like constantly in conflict with neighboring nations. We'll do business all over the place, but this one's blown up in the media, so we'll decide that we want to, you know, attempt to make ourselves look good.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
that's how I
hard.
see it. But
Yeah, no, it's hard not to be cynical about it, because you're right. If you truly felt this way, why are you doing business in these other countries? However, I mean, this sort of comes into play, and I'm going to get into a little bit of a slippery slope here, but it's kind of a relevant similar situation where Chris and I were in the theater watching the trailers for the Batman, and one of the trailers was um for Fantastic Beasts, the next installment that's coming out. And Chris was just like super upset Mads Mikkelsen is going to be replacing Johnny Depp. And I was less upset. But Chris was like, "Oh, I just can't believe like, they cut ties with Johnny Depp and like, I don't know, I don't think you can stop working with an actor like that because, of like this one incident and it, couldn't be proved and blah blah blah." And I was like, "Yes, but also like everybody has the right to decide where their line is." Where you say like, "Listen, we could have in this situation that I'm referring to, we could have dealt with Johnny Depp if, he got drunk and got in a bar fight. If he scandalously married a porn star and divorced her 2 hours later, if he did X, Y, and Z. But the line that we won't cross here is allegations of abuse." That's our personal line that we just say, like, that's where we say, "We can't work with you." So everybody has the right to decide where their line is. So I want to be generous in thinking that there's a person or several people at these companies making the decision of, like, this is where our line is. Cynical side of me says, like, this is a company, it's probably not that idealistic, and it is in part, if not in most, probably, yes, decided by how will the majority of our consumers see us if we do this thing that we know may please many of them.
Yep. I mean, yeah, I'm on the cynical side because, like you say, Ethan, usually when I'm arguing almost anything, it's never in that someone or some entity can't do something. It's
Mhm.
whether I think they should or not, or if they're being consistent.
Mhm.
Because and if anything drives me crazy, it's hypocrisy or injustice. And yeah, I don't think for a second anyone is like, well, our moral line at Warner Brothers is an actor facing allegations of something. It's what is the PR going to be for us?
Mhm.
How are we going to be viewed? Because regardless of the case outcome, people
Yeah.
will see the stories of the allegations and that will be in their head then. So and then,
But then isn't
Amber
that
Heard
sort of
gets to keep her work and her jobs. And then
and I guess I don't agree with that.
yeah, it's me. It's just the inconsistency.
I agree with that.
It's like the
Yeah.
NFL,
The
they'll like
inconsistency is frustrating.
right. It's like NFL wants to preach about something, but then, they have players that are on camera throwing their girlfriends against the wall, or whatever. And
Mhm.
it's,
Drag him into an elevator
yeah,
by
you
the
know.
hair.
So like I don't trust the like feign of morality from any of these giant mega corporations. And though I don't argue with them being able to do it,
Mhm.
I yeah, it drives me
Yeah.
a little crazy.
Yeah, it's hard because, on the one hand you feel like if you're doing solely for the company, what does the most good? Does that take away some of your personal autonomy to make those choices? Like if I was working for a company and I said, "Here's my moral line," and the company said like, "Okay, but our moral line is like way further out here."
Mhm.
Or if my moral line was further out than a company's and they said like, "Nope, you have to have that." Like when do I get to have the choice? Or when am I making the choice based on morality, but then also happens to have the side effect sometimes of being on the right side of popular opinion?
Mhm.
Can I never get credit for having my moral line? And that was my moral choice regardless of public opinion, and public opinion just happened to decide with me. It's really tricky when you're thinking about working at a company because you're never sure who exactly the buck stops with because they never come forward to say, "I solely me, executive, number 23 at Warner Brothers made this decision."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, well, it
you
is
just look at a
always
company and think, like, who made that decision and why? Who was in the room
mhm.
saying, like, "This is wrong," and who was in the room saying, "This is good PR."
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and that balance is certainly different in different companies, like who
Right.
carries the weight and all that stuff, and, um but look at the James Gunn with Disney.
Mhm.
We're gonna drop James Gunn because we can't stand for this, and
Mhm.
then, well, he'll come back for now that you've forgotten about it, he can come back for Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Oh, sure, sure.
It's like
Yeah.
you're gone, we're separating, we don't, so then he goes to work for DC for a couple films and a show and whatever, and Marvel's like, "Actually, yeah, come back. That's all right. It's fine." So,
Yeah.
because there was no morality there. It was just about saving face, not, but
Mhm.
I'm glad someone maintains the hope there, the of, someone means something good somewhere,
Mhm.
so
Yeah, I don't know. It's really hard. I mean, both scenarios play out in your mind and you're never sure which one is the one that's, the right one and who gets to make that decision, or if somebody makes the decision and then somebody else says like, and it's good PR, or
yeah.
somebody makes the good PR decision before you have to like approach your moral line.
So, and sometimes, look, there can be a win-win.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to always be like, for instance, every new product reveal or whatever, Apple talks about how green it is and the different things they're doing for the environment for each one.
Mhm.
Well, the cynic can say, well, you don't actually care. You're saving money doing this.
Mhm.
By building a machine to quickly pull apart an iPhone and recycle most of the materials so you can use, you're saving money. By
Mhm.
reducing the amount of packaging, you are saving shipping costs because you're using less material, which is therefore less expensive. You can fit more things per pallet, therefore more on one shipping container. You're saving money. So a complete cynic can be like, well, you don't care at all. You this is a monetary gain. But you can also be like, well, it can be you can have both things can be true.
Mhm.
People might actually feel this is right, and at the same time it benefits the company monetarily, and at
Mhm.
the same time it benefits them from a PR standpoint or whatever,
Right.
multiple things can be true at once. So, yeah, but anyways, it's about as political as we get here, I guess. But I just thought, um
Yeah.
we
I
wish
mean,
we
it's
wish everyone luck. We wish everyone
yes.
luck on that side of the
Yes.
world. So, um see. Okay. So switching gears
Mhm.
to movies right before
Mhm.
we get into the Batman.
Indeed.
DC, I don't know, I thought this they could slide this in there, no one would notice on the good news of the Batman launch or
Right.
whatever, because Warner Brothers has delayed Aquaman 2 and Flash until next year.
Mhm.
Flash is delayed until June 23rd next year, and Aquaman until December 16th. No, sorry, March 17th next year.
Mhm.
So that's interesting, huh?
Yeah. I didn't really see that coming. I kind of thought we
Mhm.
were over the hump of major movie release delays. And this makes me nervous because it doesn't feel like there's a great reason behind it unless you know of one that I don't.
I was gonna watch Grace Randolph's breakdown of why that is, and I didn't get there. So
Okay.
whatever insider information she has, I'm not privy to at the moment. Um, But I like, Renato says in chat, he's like, 2022 is the year of DC, but not really. Yeah, that's right,
Yeah.
because they had the Super Bowl trailer, remember? It's like, "Here's all the
Yep.
stuff this year,"
The year of
And,
DC. Yep.
yeah, and
And even
now,
then it was pretty scant. It was
Mhm.
like I mean, I guess it was
Well,
4. I shouldn't say it was
yeah,
like
I'd say in
scant.
your mind, I remember you being disappointed. It's like, "What more do
Yes.
you want from them, Andrea?"
I know. It's hard not to think of like, Marvel's such like a composite train now of TV and movie. So it just feels
Mhm.
like
Just feels
DC
united,
should be like
like
there should be like TV shows pumping out that they're endorsing and flashing up on their year of DC and as well as movies. So it felt like there should be more content, but it's hard to get back into that. Like they're just talking movies. These are big blockbustery tentpole kind of movies. Of course, there are only 4 of them in a year.
mhm,
Like
right.
that's insane. But in my brain, I was sort of still on the like Marvel side of like, look at all the releases on Disney Plus Day that were about Marvel. It was just like insane. So,
Yeah. Well, and
but it's not fair.
it's easy to get carried away that way. I like tweeted during the PlayStation State of Play, and you know, because people are thinking, well, God, PlayStation, what do they have this year? Tell us, what are you going to do? And it's like, well, you already got Horizon Forbidden West. We get Gran Turismo 7. Supposedly God of War Ragnarok is coming
Mhm.
out this year. And then maybe PSVR 2. Like, what more do you want from a from a game company? Like, how many do you expect? And sometimes, yeah, when you look at like Nintendo, sometimes a lot of games, but it's a lot of games that cost a lot less to make or whatever. So
Mhm.
yeah, with DC, it's just if I get what you're saying because it feels less unified. Because even if they come
Right.
out with a new Doom Patrol and they come out with an animated new season of Young Justice and they come out with a new Harley Quinn season and maybe they come out with a new animated Constantine or Justice League Dark movie, all these things that are in the world, they're not connected. So
Mhm.
then, and they're not part of the same promotion. So yeah, but Renato was asking about Black Adam being delayed or not. I don't see that being the case. Did you hear about that
Um
one? I
it
don't.
might have been delayed by like a month or something, but it's still coming out in the summer.
Okay, yeah, it's listed here as October 21st
Oh,
this
October
year.
21st? Then
So
it was coming out in the
got a
summer and
couple
now it's coming
months.
out October 21st. So,
Okay.
yeah, I don't know what the dealio is. I mean, a couple months doesn't seem like enough to do like shooting or script fixes. So, I don't know that that's something.
Yeah,
Maybe it's an
maybe
editing
effects,
fix.
editing. Yeah,
Effects, yeah.
yeah. I
Hard to
mean,
know though cuz it's such like
right.
a short time in the time of movies that doesn't feel like enough time to really do much.
Maybe they were gonna rescore it. There's all kinds of stuff in post you could do that. We saw the Snyder cut, saw the difference that made. They can
Super true.
completely go. Yeah. So, um, yeah. Well, 2023, the year of DC. Here we come. So,
Yeah.
let's see. So we got one more news story you found. What's this one here about the Batman's world?
Yes, indeed. So, HBO Max, again, something I really hadn't heard all that much about, was producing 2 different um, series based off of Matt Reeves' The Batman. There's going to be a kind of, TV companion to his movie universe. And they've decided to cancel one of the two. And
Oh,
I
one of them. Okay.
Yes, I weirdly think this is the right one to cancel. So,
Okay.
spoiler alert, maybe, if you haven't heard about this before. There no spoilers for the Batman, not yet, but just spoiler alert if you haven't heard about this. So the 2 shows that were in development, one was going to follow a cop in the Gotham Police Department and kind of, his dealings with the characters that are in play in Matt Reeves' Batman. The second that is still going forward is kind of an origin story about Colin Farrell's Penguin, his rise to power, how he gets there, how he kind of builds the club, that appears in the Batman.
Ah,
Again, I'm not trying to give away too much, um, but it's going to follow like his story in Gotham, and that is still moving forward in development. And while I'm kind of sad that both of them aren't, it's I guess it's hard to be too sad about something you didn't know all that much about. But out of the two, I think dropping the Gotham PD kind of angle is the better choice because we've already got a show like Gotham that followed Jim
right.
Gordon
Yeah.
and his way through the Gotham PD and his like interaction with the Batman and the city's villains. We've already got that kind of angle, even if this was going to be a little bit different take. We've already too recently been there, I think. And the more interesting and original choice is to follow Penguin.
Okay.
My
Yeah.
take on that.
I would agree on that. I mean, I wouldn't be counting in because of the Gotham show, I guess. I don't know how well that's not still running, is it? I
I
haven't
don't
heard
think
anything
it's
about
still
that in a
running,
long
but it
time.
did well during its run.
It did? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it was fairly
Interesting.
I think it was fairly successful, and I believe it was more successful early than late, like many shows. Um, but I don't remember how many seasons it had.
Yeah, Renato says it's done.
Yeah,
Whatever.
okay. But
It had to be
I
at
just
least
feel like
3.
yeah, I just feel like it was recent enough that like we've done Gotham PD. It's fine. We don't need another one so soon on the heels. Maybe, you know, we get a Batman sequel. We get a whole like slew of films. Maybe the Penguin series does well. Maybe we make it later.
Right.
But right now, I just don't think it's the one we need.
Okay. It's not the hero we want, it's one we deserve, or
It's the hero,
the
hero we
Dark
deserve.
Knight
Yeah.
line or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, we should we'll get to this ranking as after we talk about
Hmm.
the movie here maybe
Hmm.
but we should get into the Batman itself, Batman movie 2022 proper,
Hmm.
starring our Pats and Zoe Kravitz. Um
I already
so,
spoiled that Colin Farrell's the Penguin, so him too.
yeah, yeah, right. So yeah, I just managed to see this
Mhm,
yesterday.
mhm,
Um, so it's fresh in my mind.
mhm.
What do you think of it? Were your hopes
Ooh.
high? Were they, and did it meet those? Or I know pre-show you said you had a lot of thoughts, so
Yes,
lay
yes, I
'em
have
on
many,
me.
many thoughts, as you can obviously see in my script notes
I
here.
mean, I haven't read them.
Um,
I don't know if I wanna be spoiled
yeah,
by your notes, but
yeah. Um, so I went into the Batman with, I would say, middling hopes.
okay.
Um, I think my hopes got a little bit of boost from Emily last week, saying, overall she thought it was good and gave a thumbs up for it. I did ended up agreeing with her that our Pats has a great Batman jaw. I thought he did well there. He like filled that, lower half of the mask out nicely. Um, so going into it with middling hopes, this movie did exceed my expectations.
Okay.
Is it my number one Batman movie? No. But does it have a place at least in my top 5? Tell you later if it makes it into the top 3. Yes,
Okay.
it does. I thought it was very well done on the whole. There were some great casting choices, very smart moves by Matt Reeves. And I think other people have said this and I agree, to distance himself and not make it too similar to previous recent Batman movies. We left the Joker alone in this, which is smart. It wasn't like a strictly an origin story, which is smart. We've had a lot of origin stories, so kind of jumping in towards the beginning, but not the very beginning. Smart things to do. Like, I think he separated this movie out and made it its own progenitor of a potential film series without following too many traditional routes. And I think that that was a smart thing to do.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Well said. I agree. I
Mm.
think with most of that, except for that, I went in with pretty high hopes.
Sure.
Tried to tamp them down, but just on what they'd given me beforehand, it really felt like the kind of film I wanted. And
Mhm.
I've spoken on this previously or whatever, how, like, generally speaking, I am never a big proponent of race or gender swaps and things. But I've also said, in terms of Batman, when you're doing something that has been done many, many, many times before, is where you need to bring it's okay to bring something different or fresh. And
Mhm.
so, like with the Batman, like you said, we strayed from some of the trappings or familiar territory of previous films, definitely for its benefit, because we didn't need a rehashing of. I mean, it's been years since we've seen the Riddler, and then particularly the Penguin in the
Mhm.
film format. So that's good. And yeah, they didn't fall into that thing we get with Spider-Man, where it's always like, we have to see Uncle Ben die again and again or
Mhm.
whatever. It's like we know some of these origin things. We spent a ton of time in the Batman Begins,
Mhm.
where did Bruce Wayne go? Like seeing him as a kid, learning lessons from his father, going and training, abroad, and like exploring the world, and seeing the criminal underbelly in that way. We did all that.
Mhm.
So, though
Yeah.
on one hand, you don't want a movie that expects you that you must know those other things, so you can't write for that with the expectation. But you also don't need to write something that retreads on ground in the case that many people are familiar.
Mhm. Yeah, I think this movie kind of benefited in that way from Christopher Nolan's series being so recent that I feel like this was like I mean, it is a reboot of Batman, but it isn't. You know what I mean? Like,
Ye
we can already sort of draw on enough people saw Nolan's series, saw that origin story. Batman is fresh enough as a whole in our minds. We don't need to see his origin story. We don't need to be reintroduced to him. He's he's already there because Christopher Nolan made this series and we've got that to draw on. Now let's just get into Batman. Like a different
Okay.
Batman, a different take for sure, but like the story of his rise to being Batman is familiar enough in the recent entertainment mind that we didn't need to do an origin story.
Yeah. Yeah, like, everybody has their different, uh, view of what Batman is or what it means to them. Like, last week we got, like you said, Emily's impressions,
Mhm.
and, she said her favorite Batman is, from, like, the '70s, '60s and
Adam
'70s
West.
with, Adam West, yeah.
Mhm.
And that's definitely, like, it has its place, but it's definitely not what I'm looking for in Batman. And so when I went to this film, this is definitely the kind of thing I'm looking for when I go to Batman. It gives me
Mhm.
the sort of vibes that I would get watching the animated series. We also got Batman being a detective, which I thought was really nice. Um,
Mhm.
we definitely he's it's always, I mean, the Detective Comics is a Batman comic.
Mhm.
He's both in the title, besides like Dark Avenger and all these different things or whatever, is um the Dark Knight and whatnot. He is the world's greatest detective. But we
Mhm.
don't get that much. And to me, this movie was the closest Batman film we've had to a murder mystery story that
Mhm.
Batman must solve. And he does so with the help of Alfred and Jim Gordon.
Mhm.
And I like that a lot. Um,
Mhm.
I was happy to see it. And I hope if they're making more, that this isn't a one-off kind of format, for this Batman and this Riddler case. Um,
Mhm. Yeah, that was one of the elements that I wrote down as the strongest of the film as well. I really enjoyed the old school classic detective story piece of it, and I think it was smart to draw in the audience as well. Like I was sitting there in the audience trying to solve ciphers and riddles that, the Riddler had left for the Batman, and it was fun sometimes when I got it like the second before, our Pat said his line solving it. It's a way for the audience to be engaged as well.
yep.
And it
Mhm.
was well done enough that it wasn't always obvious what the answer was, or, if you felt like you had the answer, you didn't have the right answer. So there were still twists and turns that could be revealed, as in the answer, where they solve um for, a rat with wings, and they're trying to go through
Yeah.
like who has wings, like it's the Batman or it's the Penguin has wings. Oh, crap, nope, wait, a falcon has wings. So we
Mhm.
go through, like, several iterations of what an answer could be so that we can still have surprises, but the audience is also along with us being the detective for the journey.
Yep. Yeah, and I think they did that well because it's not an easy thing. I get why they don't do a ton of
Mhm.
mysteries all the time, because
Yeah.
having a satisfying one, it's one of the it's amazing about the Columbo series that you're able to get such satisfying resolutions to these mysteries. But in this case, yeah, it was a good balance of action, but trying to figure things out. I like a lot that the kind of twist is the Riddler is feels like he's
Mhm.
working with the Batman. Like it's they're accomplices in this. That he needs Batman's muscle, while he sets the
Mhm.
stage for everything. And so he gets really upset when it's like, no, I'm not, we're not in this together. So I liked
Mhm.
that elements of it too. It kept the Riddler kind of unstable.
Right.
Um, I think probably one of the more controversial things is going to be the look of the Riddler and his outfit and stuff. What do you think of all that stuff?
In terms of, like, he doesn't have question
Like
marks all over his outfit?
yeah, and he's wearing the kind of strange mask. There's nothing particularly traditional about his costumed look other
Mhm.
than it's green.
Yeah, I mean, but was there anything very traditional about penguins?
Well,
I didn't really
that
feel that.
I mean, but that depends on I mean, traditional original penguin, I suppose not, you know. But penguin's gone through a number of iterations, and like he's settled into being in many stories, a crime boss. And
Right.
so definitely not taking the literal route of Danny DeVito,
Mhm.
literally has like flippers
Right.
and that kind of thing. But
Yeah, so I wasn't particularly bothered by it. I mean, I wasn't expecting to, see Jim Carrey's skin tight lime green, you know, question mark beriddled suit up there. So I didn't really know what I wanted the Riddler to look like. And I'm glad in a way that it didn't try to do those things. I felt like it was another element that surprised me. It didn't disappoint me, and it felt more natural in here where like the penguin also was a more realistic take on, what he would be wearing. Um so yeah, so it didn't really bother me, to be honest.
okay,
I really was more focused on Paul Dano's performance, which I thought was fantastic. He really
yes,
hit some emotional highs, lows, conveyed the sense of his purpose and his dedication and his belief, and then his absolute utter insanity, his heartbreak and his grief and despair when the Batman turns out to not be the partner that he wants him to be.
Mhm.
It's he just had a fantastic emotional range all over the show, and he did amazingly well hidden behind not only a mask, but also a thick pair of glasses
Yep.
and some, like, baggy clothes, so you couldn't always even see, you know, the full extent of what his body was doing. So I
Yep.
just kudos, he did a really, really great job.
Mhm. And I think, you know, from my take of what I've read of Batman for the Riddler is I've always felt sometimes he's a little undefined. He's a little like we have the Mad Hatter on one side and we have the
Mhm,
Joker on the other. Where is the Riddler in this exactly? And I think that to me, personality wise and like how he would handle himself in this worked very well
mhm,
for what the Riddler should be. And yeah, I liked how creepy he was able to be, how unstable he was able to be, but
mhm,
how intelligent too, and like how he, the moment where he's talking to the Batman. Oh, I thought you were way smarter than this.
mhm.
I like those moments and stuff. Um, so yeah, I think he was a great like ultimate baddie in a movie where we had a number of them, and yeah.
We did, but I liked the way that everyone was introduced. I liked the way that, you say we had many baddies, many villains, but nobody felt like, "Oh my god, here comes the penguin." Like,
Right.
nobody was
Yep.
like, "Big introduction." It was, "This is Gotham. These are the people. Here are the players. Like,
Yep.
let's just go about our daily lives trying to survive our interactions with these people who run, some of the more dangerous parts of the city, or obviously in Falcone's case, he thought like I run the city."
Yeah. Yeah. I think the movie also it succeeds in not trying to be too large. Sometimes they want to have and like there were big set pieces and stuff for sure, but they weren't trying to they didn't have to spend a bunch of time with Bruce Wayne being Bruce Wayne. And like
Mhm.
how does he interact in society? In the Nolan films, we get Bruce comes in with multiple ladies
Mhm.
and they go to restaurants and they mess around and stuff. And so they feel obligated to share those moments and to drive the home that he's not doesn't like this and how everybody perceives him publicly. There were small moments mentioned in this without having to delay and like go into that. You know,
Mhm.
we um we didn't have to um see the larger scale like I felt like we stayed focused on the mystery and the murders. We didn't have
Mhm.
to there's a throwaway line by Alfred, like, I can teach you to fight, so we get like, okay, Alfred taught him some
Mhm.
martial arts or whatever,
Some
but we
moves,
don't
yeah.
have to, yeah, we don't have to see like where all the
Training
training came from.
montage.
Yeah. We don't have to see we didn't have to see him come up with and make the bat suit. And like
Mhm.
where does he get the what where the resources and like some strange like splunking excuse for why we have this suit and like all this stuff. It just was there and you can accept it.
Mhm.
We didn't waste time, which is funny because that was one of my critiques is it was too long.
Yes,
It was still
I
too long.
agree. I agree. There was a point where I did sit there thinking like, "Boy, we better be in the end game right now because this has been taking a while." Like I definitely
Mhm.
like even glanced at my watch like, "Okay, like I need this to hustle." So, yeah. It did get a little long.
Like, we coulda probably cut an action sequence or 2 and been
Mhm.
fine,
Mhm.
I think to try to find, Ronaldo says Batman walks slow as hell, hence the long movie. I mean, but I'm okay that they were
He did walk
alright
slowly into
taking.
a room.
Yes. But I like that. I like the intention. I like this the holding certain shots for a while coming at the penguin in the car upside down. Like, I like those moments, so I don't wanna
Mhm.
lose those moments, that's for sure.
Mhm.
But maybe a few less of them or something like that, I don't know.
Yeah.
But, I also like that he's working with the cops, though there was friction there. So
Mhm.
often we get in the movies where they go with that theme of Batman's the bad guy too, Batman
Mhm.
shouldn't be doing this or whatever. So we're gonna, the cops are shoot him on sight kind of thing. And this, he
Right.
was like clearly had a relationship built with Jim Gordon.
Like
He
a
stuck up
reluctant
for him.
consultant.
Yeah, and so he could be on the crime scene and stuff, and I liked that as well.
Yeah, I will take a moment here to jump in and say this points to one of my critiques of the film. And it's a light critique, um, but something that I hope is maybe made clearer going forward because now it does sound like there will be a sequel. Um, I had a hard time placing exactly where this was in Batman's development. So clearly we're not getting an origin story here. You know what I mean? Like we're obviously not in the
Mhm.
very very early days of Batman. He's been established. But it was tricky to me to place where he was in being the Batman because there were certain things that made it sound like he'd been the Batman for quite a while.
2 years.
Um 2 years.
They mentioned this was year 2.
This was year 2. Okay, so that still doesn't feel like it rings true for me in terms of how long he's been the Batman because we've and this will be, again, potentially a big spoiler, but that's why we have the nice big red spoilers on our screen. Um the fact that he's already gone up against the Joker and put him away seems very early, very early in his career to do that.
Well, we don't know that though. We don't I mean, we get the tea at the
That's
end
the
that that's
intimation. So if we take that the Joker's already been put away and that he has a reference and Matt Reeves has a reference in a scene that he said he cut where Batman, is visiting the Riddler and gets to see the Joker and the Joker says, "Oh, it's coming up on our anniversary."
Hmm.
So he's already gone up against the Joker and put him away.
Maybe that's why they pull it though, because pull that scene,
Because it's problematic to me because yeah, I mean it really kind of spun me into thinking like where is this in his time frame? He's early, but he's already gone up against the Joker. Like he's very cynical about being Batman and he said, like I don't have an effect and I can't see that what I'm doing is any meaning. But then he's still keeping the journal of like, the experiment of him being Batman and what effect it
Yeah.
has. So there was some very back and forth like, how long exactly have you been doing this? And why are you so jaded and experienced and yet in other arenas you seem, so green yet? Why is your
Hmm.
relationship with the Gotham PD established, but also the Gotham PD is like, "Oh, we don't trust you and we don't like you working with us." So,
Yeah, I mean,
it was just hard to place sometimes. I got different signals at different points in the movie.
well, like Renato said, maybe he's not quite the Joker. I was thinking that too. Is like maybe he's not really.
Right.
He's still a
I was trying to
criminal,
find excuses in my mind,
He's kind of
like,
an insane
he's
person,
right, he's
but he's
not quite the
not.
established legendary
Mhm,
Joker. Like, maybe everybody in this movie is really young, like, Paul Dano as the Riddler is pretty young. I mean, Robert Pattinson as Batman, he's clearly not, like, old established Batman, but he's also not, like, the origin story, but he could be a younger version of Batman.
mhm.
It was hard sometimes in my mind to, like, place where I was trying to situate along a
Yeah, and
timeline.
especially if you're going through like, you can miss the one line saying about year 2 or whatever. I don't remember what
Mhm.
point that was or whatever, but,
Sure.
um, yeah, I mean, he clearly he's to me, I read it as he's decided to go down this path, and
Mhm.
he's still, like, saying he's vengeance. He's still very, like, kind of cold and, obsessive at this
Mhm.
point, and so he has not found, because it's part of the contention we find, he has not found that balance. We As he talks about with Alfred, like not doing the philanthropy work, not
Mhm.
showing up ever in public ever. Falcone says, "Oh, the one person that's more reclusive than I am."
Right.
So he's. It feels fresh that he's here. He's
So
been doing
obsessive
this,
by
and it
being the
feels like he's
Batman.
just been. Yep. And so I think
Mhm.
that going forward, it's a way for him to start trying to find a balance or whatever. And
Sure.
he
Which would
has
be
the yeah.
interesting. Yeah, it'd be
Mhm.
interesting territory to explore in further movies. I felt like it was a smart move in this movie to not see much of Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne because I felt like he made a better Batman than a Bruce Wayne. Um,
Mhm.
but I could be persuaded to change my mind maybe further along. Right now he
Yep.
just feels so young and so angsty that I'm kind of glad that I didn't see a lot of Bruce Wayne, and maybe
Yep.
I'll be more appreciative, of a Bruce Wayne that's like trying to find his way into experiencing normal life as much as he can, obviously while hiding the secret of being
Yep.
Batman.
Because to me, that's something I've never really seen in Batman as well. Is the young Bruce? He's not a child, but he's
Mhm.
not like been
He's not a
doing the Batman
man.
thing for long. Right. He's young yet
Mhm.
being Bruce Wayne, like the
He's a
person
young
that.
adult, yeah.
Yeah, because they try to do that, I think, in The Dark Knight, but it's like I don't buy it. Christian Bale, like
Try
you're
to do
still.
what?
The I'm young Bruce Wayne, acclimating to being in Gotham and making
Oh, yeah,
appearances and being
yeah,
on at the board meetings and all that stuff. And I'm like,
yeah,
I know you're like a 40-year-old man that,
right. No, I see where you're coming at. So I think what they do there is they're trying to be like Bruce Wayne's coming back to Gotham and being reintroduced to Gotham society and like sitting on the
yeah,
board when he's been like away partying and whatnot in his younger days. I mean, they clearly don't treat him like he's a college kid or anything,
right,
but they do make it seem like he's younger than he is, where they just sort of should have leaned into like he is a man. He is clearly like you said, he's like late 30s, maybe 40. So his awkwardness and his like reintroduction to society should have just been like I was away in Europe, blah blah blah, rather than like I don't know how all of this works. Like,
right.
what's my
Mhm.
trust fund doing? He's not that
Yep.
much of a playboy party animal. So
Right.
yeah, so I see where you're coming from. I think they just like misplayed that a little bit,
Mhm.
conflating coming back to Gotham with being young.
Mhm. Um, so you're gonna have to bring the things that you don't like, because I have a further list of things that I do like. I mean,
Okay.
I like Renato mentioned it, like the Batmobile a lot. I thought it has the right kind of blend between the animated series Batmobile, but with like a
Mhm.
Mad Max car. The way it like screams when the jet engine element of it like starts up was really good. I'm a big fan of. I like the music. Some of the themes were good. Some of the creepy violins that go back and forth are nice.
Okay,
Um,
I'm gonna pause you right there because
okay.
we can definitely talk about like those are two things that I didn't like ish. Um the music overall I actually liked. There were one or two scenes where Robert Pattinson was doing like a voiceover and the music got like a little emo-y for me and I was like, nah, I don't really need this right now. I
Hmm.
like the score of the movie, but those two voiceovers, I can't remember what song they were singing. Um, it just got like, oh, this is so angsty right
Oh, I
now. It's a
love that
lot.
song. I was like, this is like, it just felt very Smashing Pumpkins or
It did.
something
I
to
felt like
me,
they
and I'm
mentioned Kurt
like,
Cobain or something at one point in the
maybe,
lyrics.
yeah.
I'm not sure, but yeah, I actually didn't like that. I felt like it was a lot. It was leaning into I was already like sold on he's like very angsty and he's got, like emo hair and, there's a lot going on in there, and then to have the voiceover with that song in particular, I felt like it was a lot. If you loved it,
Uh,
then great, like,
yeah. Yeah.
that's
No, I loved it,
that
yeah.
hit for you. It just didn't
Mhm.
hit for me.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
the Batmobile, I actually preferred Batman on the motorcycle. I love that he
Okay,
rode the motorcycle for the majority of this movie. I feel like that is something that's been underdone in a lot of the movies. Um, the fact that like I vividly remember cartoons not only with him in the Batmobile but also riding a motorcycle, and I felt like it fit in this movie. It fit especially because Catwoman also rode a motorcycle, so it was very like creating this pairing, and the two of them working together and then diverging in their paths. So I appreciated that more than I appreciated the Batmobile. I I liked elements of the Batmobile. I just wanted a little bit more, I don't know, flash in it. I
sure.
wanted a little bit more like old
More
school. I didn't need
refined
like
Batmobile.
yeah, I didn't need like bat wings or like, a fin coming off it or anything because that wouldn't to have that here and then not have like the Riddler in a green suit with question marks would be like, okay, well, where's our camp line here? But I just wanted something a little bit more distinctive, I
Okay,
think, for a Batmobile.
okay.
So, but maybe I'm jumping the gun and maybe this is something that happens again in a later movie that
Mhm.
we kind of make it less car and more Batmobile.
Sure. I mean, it ties into what I think is one of the things I appreciate most about this movie is this is, in my mind, it it manages to be stylistic and larger than life
Mhm.
in ways, while also being the most grounded and realistic Batman we've gotten. I think
Mhm.
that between the suits and the Batmobile and what Catwoman wears and the different villains and everything, it manages because Christopher Nolan to me went for realism in a lot of ways, and it got us what we got from Bane and stuff. A guy that's like shorter than Batman, that's just a
Mhm.
muscular dude, whatever.
Mhm.
Um, but at the same time, we had a Batmobile that he would like go down in and face the front and lay flats to like a gunner mode, and then it would like leap over buildings and stuff, and somehow the massive weight wouldn't crush and just fall through the roofs everywhere. And it's again, and it's excuse that Wayne Enterprise was experimenting with a bridge
Yeah.
building thing, and then it splits. He moves and becomes a motorcycle, like all
Yeah.
these things. They're not it all you're giving me this realistic Gotham, and you're filling
Mhm.
it with all stuff that has no elements of realism at all. And
Mhm.
so I really appreciated that this one felt a lot
Real.
more grounded, not only
Mhm.
and also in performances. Like um Christopher Nolan is a great director, but in a movie like Batman, there are lines occasionally that are really um unnecessary. They're exposition heavy, and
Mhm.
sometimes their delivery is not the greatest, and so it kind of like brings down the seriousness level. And I think that performances for characters that could potentially be very, very over the top were very solid in this,
Mhm.
and then the technology matched too.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I hear what you're saying about like Christopher Nolan's slash Christian Bale's Batmobile. For sure. There were functionalities that felt like leaps. What I appreciated about that was its form, not necessarily that I believed in all of its function. I appreciated the form because it wasn't just like a car on the street. It was
yeah, right.
different and it wasn't like again like something with fins, wings on it and something crazy, but it was distinctive enough to be like there's the Batmobile Like, not just a guy driving like a souped up charger down the highway. Now am I stretching and exaggerating a little bit for the sake of my argument? Yes, I am. Obviously, he's not just driving a charger down the highway. But, when Christian Bale's Batmobile was coming after you, it's nobody else's. Like, you can't even for a split second be like, the headlights behind me may be somebody else. Whereas you
Right.
could with this one. And that's fine for now. But again, I just hope maybe in a future movie we can do something a little bit more distinctive to signal like here's the Batmobile, because it's just such a
Yep.
moment when you see it behind you that it's like for villains, it's just, oh shit, here he is.
Yep. Yep. Um, so talking about some of the characters, Catwoman, big
Yeah.
role in this.
Yep,
Zoe
here she is on
Kravitz.
screen.
Yeah. She made some headlines saying some stuff before the movie came out and
Mhm.
whatever. And usually I just best of these guys just keep their mouths shut. But in seeing the film, like, I was pretty happy with the performance and the way that, she was portrayed. She felt
Mhm.
very genuinely Catwoman to me.
Mhm.
Um, I will make it clear that no one can beat the Michelle Pfeiffer and the way that that is done.
Mhm.
But for a more realistic Batman, I thought that she did pretty damn well, and definitely the best we've seen
Mhm.
Catwoman in a long time, because we
Mhm.
got Catwoman as, Halle Berry being Catwoman.
Oof.
That's a sad state of things, and then we had,
Anne Hathaway.
Anne Hathaway, which was not, I don't put it on her exactly, but she was shoehorned in and totally wasted in The Dark Knight Rises. Um,
Yeah, I
so
have a lot of mixed feelings about her. I thought she was better than I thought she was going to be, and then also not great because her role was hampered.
Oh, okay.
Like you said, like I had the probably like super zero ground zero expectations for Anne Hathaway as Catwoman.
Oh,
Just
you're
so
talking
just
Anne Hathaway. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So she was better than I had thought she was, but the role itself, again, like you said, was limited, not necessarily by her and her acting, but by the role that was written.
Yeah.
To address Zoe Kravitz and what she was talking about, um, I kind of I don't know the story, and she herself said, I was not allowed to audition for Christopher Nolan. I don't know whether, the
Oh,
remark about
I
her
wasn't
being
sure
too.
which comment. She'd made a few.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
so
I
about yeah.
the remark about her being too urban, she said, I don't know if it came from Christopher Nolan. I don't know who it came from. I don't want to ascribe it to any one person, but that's what
Yep.
I was told when I wasn't allowed. I I can't comment on that because I have no idea where that came from and like who that came from. What I will comment on is I think in the end she's in the better role for her and the better movie for her as Catwoman. She as Catwoman, I don't think would have paired well with Christian Bale. Now, have I seen them on
Well,
screen and can I make that definitive comment? No, I can't because I haven't. In my mind, she fits better in this younger version of Batman. And I felt
well,
like her chemistry with Pattinson would have been better than any potential chemistry she might have had with Bale. My
I
opinion though.
believe she came out and clarified, and I was glad
Oh,
she
okay,
did
sure,
this
sure.
because the first allegation, the headlines everywhere is like, Zoe Kravitz claims racism for not being allowed into Christopher Nolan's films,
Right,
whatever.
right.
She cleared up to that, like, I'm not calling Christopher Nolan a
Yeah.
racist because
Mhm.
I don't know where this came from exactly, and
Right.
also, I don't think she was auditioning for Catwoman. It was not she Catwoman was never a role that was up for her in the Dark Knight trilogy.
Mm, I
It was
see.
for some completely different role in the movie, and so
What would it have been
whatever
then?
I don't know. Yeah. I wonder if I can find her comments, um,
Yeah, that would be interesting because
quickly enough.
my whole thought process was based on her, like, potentially auditioning for Catwoman, and
Exactly.
I just didn't see that, you know?
And I think that's
And
the
nor
assumption that media wanted people to go to, and,
Sure,
I think her comments weren't particularly clear to begin with,
sure.
and, I think it got cleared up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know what role she was potentially going for then because, yeah, to my mind, I just didn't think she and Christian Bale would have fit in any
No, she'd
capacity.
be way too young. Way too
Yeah.
young. Let's see. Responds to public discussion. Um, let's see. Um, one of the most um, however, Kravitz revealed she also auditioned for another Batman film, having been rejected from an audition for The Dark Knight Rises. The actor said she was told by someone associated with film, though not Nolan himself, that she was
Mm,
too urban to be cast. Kravitz later said that hearing this and being a woman of color was really hard. Not following the discussions, writing
mhm,
his comments, issued a statement clarifying her experience. Um, I was not told, quote, I was not told I was too urban to play Catwoman in The Dark Knight Rises. It
mm,
would have made no sense for me to even be considered for that role at that time. I
mhm,
wanted to audition for a small part in the film and was told, I do not know who said this, but this was how it was worded to me, that they were not going urban for the part. This is
mm.
something I heard a lot 10 years ago.
Hmm.
So she was not auditioning for
Okay,
Catwoman
okay,
in those films.
okay.
Um,
That makes a lot more sense then
yeah,
because
and you can see how it got out of hand because it's like
yeah.
you would,
It's so
yeah,
vague that, yeah, you would automatically
yeah,
make the connection in the mind because, of course, she's playing Catwoman right now, so,
right,
yeah.
yep,
Maybe it was, Anne Hathaway's, like, roommate, when
yeah,
she
yeah,
that,
oh yeah,
like, younger
right, it could
roommate
be.
or something. That could have been it, because I was trying to, like, quickly go in my mind, like, what were smaller female roles,
I mean,
but
but
that,
did you
she
know
would have
who
still have
Zoe
to
Kravitz
audition for.
was at the time? When Dark Knight Rises came out, like, which she's blown up.
Yeah,
Then not so much. So
yeah.
she'd be auditioning for something small. It could
Yeah,
be a
she could.
throwaway
Yeah,
thing,
she yeah, you're right. I was trying to, like, walk the middle ground of, like, what could she audition for that's not too small, but, like, smaller, because yeah, she could have even been, just auditioning for, like, a waitress at the, party at the Wayne Manor, um, and it would have been, whatever, I don't know. But yeah. Yeah,
Yep,
whatever she auditioned for, I guess, it was not Catwoman, so yeah,
yep.
which you're right. Everybody's right. She's right. Wouldn't have made any sense. It would have been terrible.
Yeah, yeah, yep, and
Um,
it would have wasted her because if that
yeah,
was the case,
we
Catwoman
couldn't
was
have her
poorly
now.
written. Yeah, right. Yep, yep.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, I wrote that she was a few things I put her under the category a few things I was neutral positive or just thought were interesting because she made me
okay,
feel a lot of different feelings in the movie. Not that Zoe Kravitz didn't do a good job because I thought she did a really great job, but just the role, I said I was having a hard time placing my reaction, which probably meant that she was a very complex and dynamic character who I wasn't always supposed to like or dislike. So that, she was well written in this role. I liked her storyline. I liked her purpose, trying to find her friend slash girlfriend, and how she kind of came into contact with Batman that way. And they could sort of team up, but they weren't solidly working towards the same end goal, which meant that they could still have conflict with one another. But sometimes I wasn't clear on when she was, doing things to find her friend or when she was doing things to steal money. Like there was that meetup outside
Mm,
where they were like tracking tracking like the penguin and his men,
yep.
and she was just sort of like seeming like in it for the money, and then just sort of happened to stumble on her dead friend. And it was just such a weird scene because she was so focused on the money that I was just like, I didn't feel like that was a goal before, and now suddenly like you're back to being like a petty thief with
Mm.
no larger, there was just some
Yeah.
incongruence there. Not that it totally tore down my total enjoyment of her, but it just inconsistencies, small
To
things
me, it
sometimes that threw me.
it made it where, again, like we talked earlier, how two things can be true at the same time. I think that she
Mhm.
was definitely in it for her friend, but at the same time, didn't have any, at the same time needs money, doesn't have any qualms with stealing from these people, needing them to pay, kind of being vengeful, wanting all these people to pay, and while still wanting to know where her friend is.
Yeah, it felt like a little I disingenuous is strong, but a little off to me that after seeing her friend die, that she had the presence of mind to still like pick up the money as she motorcycled off. You know what I mean? That she was
Hmm.
still so focused on like I'm still going to steal from them to make them pay to like get the money. I don't know. It's the thing that I was talking about earlier where I was having a hard time placing Batman in his timeline. There are just some moments in this movie that felt a little flip-floppy on, like,
Hmm.
what our motivation is. Where's our timeline? Like, I'm not quite sure where you're trying to place him. I'm not quite sure where her motivation is right now. That didn't completely take me out of the movie, but there were sort of, like, mental breaks that I was just like, "Oh, that's interesting."
Yeah, and Catwoman has varied a lot through the years. She's definitely not out of the game of let's make every villain a good guy kind of thing. So she's,
Mhm.
it's a definitely a discussion like how bad or how good is she. And
Mhm.
so I was okay with this because Catwoman isn't a good person, but
Mhm.
you but she's not all bad either, supposed to be able to, like,
Yeah.
understand, and, like, that's what they do so well with Catwoman, in Batman Returns, but they play off of her being crazy more. She's broken, she
Mhm.
is cracked, and so I
Mhm.
like that take, and this is more I'm I'm trying to get by, and I'm kind of, you know, hating the world that I've found myself in, and I
Mhm.
don't have any strong figures in my life anymore so that I've developed properly. I've made all kinds of terrible choices. I'm going to keep making those terrible choices. And there's a little bit of
Mhm.
a break here where, you know, her and Batman learn a little bit from one another,
Mhm.
so maybe she leaves a little better person. But
Well, and it fits, I think, with this Batman being geared younger. She hasn't
Mhm.
had the time to have a full backstory of things happen to her that have made her go crazy or, have a mental break. She's still young and she's in the midst of terrible things happening to her and making terrible choices in reaction to those terrible things and terrible scenarios in which she's found herself. But there's not the finality of, I'm this far along and, so much of my life has led me here. There's still
Mhm.
time yet, it feels like.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, I agree that I liked the ambiguity of her character here. She's not good, but she's not bad. I mean, she had good moments. She just very selflessly goes to save Robert Pattinson, our Batman in the kind of final scenes here. She wants to root out corruption. She just she just doesn't want them, these corrupt individuals like the crooked cop and Falcone to pay through the justice system. She wants to
Right.
enact her own sense of justice. So, yeah, moral ambiguity, but very interesting character. While I'm on that, I I liked the reveal of her parentage in this movie.
Mm,
It was a great twist, but again, it pulled me out a little bit considering her previous interactions um, with Carmine and his reactions to her. Um, it just sort of like pulled me out a little bit of like, wait, so she knew this whole time and she interacted with him, very differently than I would have expected someone who knows that this is her father to react. So
mm,
I don't know. It was a good reveal, but looking back at some of their interactions with one another felt again just that titch bit off.
mm. Yeah, I liked the way that they interacted and that she kind of like I didn't when I realized too that she kept it from him and he didn't know that she was his daughter
Mhm.
because I thought maybe that he did, and so then the interactions were odd, like that, this is the kind of relationship, but at the same time, like, oh well, I guess that's sort of, but she was able to hold a bit of power over him yet in her
Mhm.
head, I think, in a way that she is able to keep this from him, and
Mhm.
then see how he reacts without that knowledge, like
Mhm.
what kind of person is this? How is
Sure.
he gonna treat me when he doesn't know what I am? And
Mhm.
so, I th I liked the dynamic, um, there, and
Sure.
I don't know how else she would respond actually, unless she wanted to like, "Hey, I'm your daughter,
Mhm.
and, treat me well, like, take care of me," kind of thing, or something like that. But I think that she was burnt and she has enough pride or whatever
Sure.
that she's not gonna do that, given he didn't care at all when she was a child and
Sure.
just left and didn't.
Yeah, I just in the way that I watched the movie and watched performances, to me it felt a little bit like Zoe Kravitz wasn't maybe in on the secret until it was revealed, and she played it that
Mm,
way,
hmm,
where
okay.
it just didn't feel as intentional to me in her performance that, she was holding back. Could be just my impression of the film, and in again, maybe if I watch it again, I'll kind of see more nuance in her performance that I missed, or, some hint that I kind of, didn't quite pick up on. But yeah, just her portrayals and her interactions with him felt a little bit more innocent to me pre-secret reveal, and then post-secret reveal, obviously, whole different ballgame.
So we should talk a few other characters, highlights or lowlights
Mhm.
or whatever. And we got Gordon, Alfred, Penguin,
Mhm.
particular, I think, larger roles here.
Yeah.
Um,
I wanna start with Penguin because I want to give props to that makeup department for hiding Colin Farrell under there and making him into the Penguin. Crazy. Forgot at least until halfway through the movie that that's who that was. So, insane job, amazing, I loved it.
yes. Yep.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah. It was.
I can't say enough about that because that was just so incredible. I completely forgot. I was totally sunk into his performance and his look as the Penguin. If this HBO series is truly moving forward, I am so, so excited to see more.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. If I didn't know that it was Colin Farrell, I would have no idea
Absolutely
the
not.
whole time.
That was insane.
Accent, look,
Mhm.
everything. Would have no idea.
Mhm. Yep.
So.
Yeah, he was kind of a major minor player in this film. I think that was exactly the right type of role for him to have as kind of a facilitator and a very minor villain who gets away. Um, so yeah, so I thought that the movie's treatment of him felt also just right.
Yeah. Um, Gordon.
Mhm.
I hesitate to say anything terrible about Gary Oldman, his
Mhm.
portrayal of Gordon in Dark Knight
Mhm.
trilogy, but I feel like if you could combine Gary Oldman's look with the way this Gordon was written, we'd have,
Mhm.
in my mind, basically the perfect Gordon. 'Cause
Mm.
Gary Oldman's Gordon, always kinda struck me as a little bit too, I don't know, timid, um, to be the
Mm.
person that then became Commissioner Gordon and would be the
Sure.
guy, you used to kinda watching the animated series or read the
Sure.
comics, this barrel-chested guy that's he's running to in charge of the department.
Yeah.
And though Gordon isn't commissioner in this one yet, he feels more competent, forceful,
Mhm.
pulls, has some sway, people trust him, and he
Mhm.
contributes to the investigation and such. So,
Mhm.
I feel like it's a more competently written Gordon than we've
Mhm.
had in any Batman movie.
Mhm.
I mean, in the first few, like, Gordon was nothing like Commissioner Gordon was.
Mhm.
Clearly whoever wrote them, Tim Burton or whatever, couldn't care less about who Commissioner Gordon was, really. He was, "We need a
Right.
cop guy
He was
for
just a
this
cop.
role."
Yeah.
Yeah. And, and then Gary Oldman, again, the right look, but sometimes the way he is written is just too timid or mousy or something, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to put my finger on what exactly that was. Um, you're right about he leads like the teams of the cops, but he's not he don't feel him as commissioner in Gary
Mhm.
Oldman's portrayal. And I don't know if that's timidness. I don't know if it's like idealism or naivete or they kind of touch a little bit in The Dark Knight Rises about his like lack of courage in denouncing Harvey Dent and like kind of participating in this cover up. How
Sure.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt is just so disappointed in him for selling out his ideals. It's hard to put a finger on what exactly that is, but you're right, he never feels forceful and he never feels like the kind of absolute commander of men,
Yep.
where Jeffrey Wright here has that potential. He
Yep.
kind of ends up being in charge by default at the very,
Right.
very end of the movie, even if he's not commissioner, and it feels natural for him to take that role.
Yep.
So I liked his portrayal quite a bit. He's one of my favorite castings in this movie. Um, so yeah, I thought it was well done by Jeffrey Wright. Like you said, he's a partner. He sticks up for Batman, but doesn't feel like he sells out the police department to do it. Like his officers still feel like his officers. And he's got that natural kind of take charge attitude.
Yep. Yep. Um, okay, so there's Alan, remind us we're past 2 hours at this point.
Okay.
There's still like tons of stuff I could say about this movie probably.
Of
But we should
course.
probably get what is like more crucial said yet. Anything that's hanging, low hanging fruit
Okay.
we have not yet plucked.
So I think we should get to at least two things. Alfred, where I mean,
Okay.
he's actually a more minor part of this movie than I thought he was going to be.
Okay.
But what did you think of him? Like, what did you think of this
I was
Alfred?
pretty happy with Alfred. I thought that he
Mhm.
was y- he, he's sufficiently young to be Alfred for this younger Batman.
Mhm.
I thought that he seemed capable enough, again, helping. He's not just the guy like we see in the Tim Burton ones, though I love that Alfred, where it's like, well, I'm
He's
bringing
my
you some
favorite.
food and I do some, yeah, some funny quips here and there or
Mhm.
something. I give you some relationship advice, all those kinds of things. He felt a little more integral in ways, and we see that the relationship still needs to like grow. Like again, it reminds me of
Mature.
how Batman is at this point. Bruce is so um, single-mindedly focused on being Batman and obsessive, and I think Alfred's going to be the thing to help kind of like bring him out of it. We have the little relationship growth between the two of them, and we have the moment where he's like, "You can't go out without cufflinks," like, "What are you doing?" And so he gives him his to use, and so I like that kinda moment as well.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, maybe smaller role than I thought, but I was happy with what I saw.
Same. Same. I thought, Circus did a nice job, um, in this role. I had a hard time envisioning it when I first heard about this casting, but again, it's a nice introduction to the role for him that has potential to grow. Like you said, he's obviously an integral part of this world, especially for Bruce Wayne slash Batman. Even if it's just, kind of quick one lines here and there, like I taught you how to fight, I knew your parents, and, I know this crucial piece of the storyline, even if I can't give you all the definitive answers about it. Um, so I was happy with it. Is he my favorite Alfred? No. But is he, a good Alfred? Absolutely, yes.
Okay. And what's the, well, so there's one other thing we had
Yes,
talked
I want to
about.
get to the bat suit. I
Oh, okay,
mean,
yeah.
obviously everybody has opinions about everybody's bat suit. So
Yeah.
I want to get to your thoughts on it. I would say 75% positive feelings about it. Um, I liked the look of it. I liked the way that, um, Pattinson like filled it out. I thought he did a good job of, wearing the suit and it not too much wearing him. I loved the way that the like batarang was built into the symbol on his chest. That was so clever. There was just so many great like technology things about this suit that felt very like, how much stuff can I pack in on a suit without just like carrying a utility belt? Like, how can I cleverly conceal additional weaponry and tools for
Mhm.
myself? So that was really fun. The one thing that I wanted to say about it, it felt a little too bulletproof. He got shot a lot at close range, and nothing seemed to slow him down until that final shotgun blast, like, directly to his chest. And I was a little like, "Ew, come on." Like, he would've been slowed down by some of these bullets, like, nothing is that bulletproof.
Yep.
So, that was just a critique of mine.
Yeah. Well, I'll use that to, for Batsuit thoughts and to lead into one thing where I had a couple issues.
Yeah, please.
So one would be, yes, the bulletproof nature. Um, so I think that ultimately I was a pretty big fan of the Batsuit. I think I never liked the head shape they gave Christian Bale's
Mhm.
Batman. Never
Sure.
liked it. Always thought it looked bad. Um, it felt homemade and practical, but cool.
Mhm.
And well thought out. Like you could see a lot of the tools and stuff on them or
Mhm.
whatever. I like that a lot. So yeah, I give the bat suit, I don't know, at least a B. Like it was
Yeah.
good. Um, I approve.
No rubber
Um,
nipples.
yeah, yeah. But yes, so when I say that this film is like the most realistic Batman film we've got, that I stand by that. But there are a few things that deviate or ruin that experience a little bit for me. One
Mm.
is the bulletproof nature. It could be a little he could still be relatively bulletproof, but they didn't have to do it so much. It was a lot.
Yes. There was a
Because
lot
just
of
the
shooting.
concussive force of some of the rifle shots,
Uh-huh.
like, so that's a little much. Um, Two is there is no way in hell Zoe Kravitz is pulling a suited up R-Pats up a ledge. Not happening.
Yeah.
Um,
That thing
Three,
looked heavy.
yeah, yeah. I mean, if he was stark naked, as long as he'd have to be helping a lot, to make this happen in this moment. But then on top of that, having the bat suit that's
Mhm.
bulletproof and everything. Um, the next thing would be the car chase didn't have to be as insane. Semis like flipping and stuff and all. Yeah, okay, that's whatever.
Also, how did the Penguin's car win in a fight with a semi? I'm just
I
saying.
don't. I don't know exactly know
He,
what
like,
happened there. It
braked
was
and it hit,
it's
and it was like a thing that made a jackknife, and I was like, "The Penguin's car is fine?" No.
the the
No.
change was cool, but it was a little confusing upon first watching what
Yes.
exactly was happening there.
Yes, perhaps
Um,
upon a second viewing, I will understand the mechanics, but on
yeah.
first, it took me out a lot.
Batman, gliding off the roof was well done until his crash landing. It's like, well, everything's broken now.
And
Um,
he was fine.
yeah,
Just
he limped
walked
away, but
away.
yeah, mhm.
It would hurt a lot
Um,
more.
yeah,
That was a
need
significant height and crash to fall from, like, crash
yes,
into and then height to fall from.
yes. So, and they didn't have to do that. They didn't have to do that scene. Like that's the thing. They didn't have to. It's always frustrating when there's something that, okay, I understand it's difficult for you to have what you want to happen, and it seems unbelievable and not possible. So you feel pushed in that corner. He could have just landed. It would have been fine. We
Mhm.
didn't need to see him like biff it so hard. So
Or he could have biffed it, but, like, not on a truck. You
yeah,
know what I mean? Like, he didn't have
just
to hit a truck and crash. He coulda just, like, not quite landed right.
yeah, right. Yep. And then there was one more pretty unrealistic thing that I can't think of at the moment. But
Mhm.
all in all, pretty good. But those are a few of things that I just like kind of took away the believability for me a little bit
Mhm.
of this.
Sure.
But um, and I
Speaking
will
of
say also,
believability, oh, no, go ahead.
oh, I just want to say that I really appreciate that though this is more realistic, I really like the design of like Wayne Enterprises, like the house inside
Mm,
there. Very gothic, very like it just it said Batman to me. I like that. I appreciated that a lot. It was like I've never seen a place like this that would be modernly used. So I like that. And the city itself, the feel and vibe of the city was
mhm,
sufficiently grimy, realistic, but also the way it was shot creates a stylistic choice that makes it feel a little larger than life,
mhm.
and versus the like bland, boring of Nolan's Gotham. It had no Nolan's Gotham had no personality. It's just here's Chicago, you know, and
Yeah.
this felt elevated in a way. So
Okay, so I'm gonna address those 2 things because this is hilarious. To the first, I actually hated Wayne Manor. I
no.
Yeah, I did, I'm sorry. I just was like, "Nobody lives here. Nobody lives in this house with its, like, drippy, hangy, viney
I want to live in that house.
things." I was like, "I don't know who designs this house." It felt very like, I don't know, like, there aren't rooms here. This is just like a space.
Dracula designed this house.
Maybe. Uh, we all know how that turned out. Um, but, like, when he was coming down to, like, a breakfast table that seemed to be, like, floating in a hall in the middle of nowhere with, like, those, like, big windows with, like, the archy vines hanging down, I was like, "This is somebody's breakfast room? Like, what's happening here? Does somebody live in this house?" I
I
don't
mean, I
know, it
hope he
just
has a room just for breakfast.
yeah, I mean, I'm probably taking that too literally. Thank
Yeah.
you for checking my breakfast, kind
No, I
of
want that to be a thing.
obsession.
I want
But it just felt like this wasn't connected to any part of a real home that people used. Now, when he wakes up in bed and there's like an actual room there, when he goes into his parents' rooms, like, sure, that felt like a house to me, but I didn't see how those rooms connected to what we saw from Alfred and Bruce
mm,
having a discussion about, like, you have to go to the board meeting. No, I don't. So those felt like two completely separate houses. So maybe I just have to see more of the inside of Wayne Manor to understand how the architecture works. But again, it was one of those disparate things that to me, and maybe not to other people, felt like they didn't quite marry with one another. So
okay.
That was the problem I had with Wayne Manor. It just felt like kind of two different spaces that I wasn't sure how they worked together inside the house. Um, to your city point, I completely agree with you. This Gotham felt a lot more like vibrant, a lot more alive, but also a lot dirtier at the same time. Like, especially when we are like entering the world of the nightclub, like it's
Yeah,
gritty and alive and vibrant and wrong, but there's personality here. There's something, there's energy, and it just kind of like spills out over into the city. I do have to say, when they were riding out from like the bridges of Gotham, I was definitely like, it's a bridge. That's exactly the same bridge. You know what I mean?
mm,
It just sort of like shot me back into like, God, I feel like I saw this exact same scene in Dark Knight Rises where somebody like
mm,
crosses the bridge and it's the exact same bridge and the exact same cityscape. But when you get into the cityscape, it felt very different.
sure. Yep,
And I liked it a lot better, but it was just funny. That very
yep,
outside look felt very similar.
yep. All right. So maybe we will have future well, I'm sure we will when we bring up Batman. Well, for future conversations about this
Absolutely.
film and stuff like that. But we should talk a little bit, like, because there's been a lot of Batman films. You found this thing
Mhm.
from Screen Rants. It's like
Mhm.
their ranking of every Batman film, worst to best.
Yeah.
So I can rattle this off quick, and then we can like get our personal takes a little bit. I know, how does this
Sure.
movie fit in? You kind of teased us earlier about getting in your top five, but was it better than that or not? So
Mhm.
according to Screen Rant, they give from worst to best:
Mhm.
Batman and Robin, Batman v Superman, Batman from 1966,
Mhm.
Batman Forever, The Dark Knight Rises, Batman: The Mask of the Phantasm, the animated film,
Mhm.
Batman 1989, Batman Begins, The Batman, Batman Returns, and The Dark Knight
Mhm.
one. So that's Screen
I'm
Rant's list.
I'm gonna flip the script and ask you
Okay.
first.
So, like, where does this fall in line for me?
Yeah. Yeah, especially I guess among those films of what you've seen, because
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
expect that you've seen all of them. I don't know.
I've seen all of them except for Batman v Superman. Those I've
Okay.
seen them
Yep.
all.
Mhm.
So,
Same.
that movie, I mean, default because of Batflick and the whole, I don't know. It's gonna be last. That's just,
Solid.
maybe, yeah, maybe I'll see it and change my mind sometime. But um, so to definitively say where this falls, I'm definitely gonna have to see it again. Um,
Mhm.
but my top Batman film is, generally speaking, Batman Returns.
Okay.
Um, Number two being Batman Forever, the
Mhm.
controversial pick. And this list here
You
has
you
it
and I both you
way,
I know.
yeah,
You and I both love Batman Forever way more than this list does.
yes, and most people, but
And most
most people
people.
can be
Yep.
wrong. That's fine. Um, yeah, this movie to me in the Batman sphere, it's got to be. I just saw it yesterday. Okay, so the
Mhm.
hype is
Yeah.
real for
Yeah,
me. So
no.
I
Yeah.
I have to say that I think it's either The Dark Knight or this next.
Okay.
So that would put it in third or fourth.
Mhm.
Um, I over time, some of the sheen of the Christopher Nolan films has worn off.
Mhm.
Ultimately, I think they did a good job of creating a nice trilogy there,
Mhm.
and but I think that it's honestly Heath Ledger's performance as the Joker that
I
drives
agree.
home what The Dark Knight is. It falls in a number of other places. They really waste Harvey Dent and Two Face. I should say Two Face. He should have been saved for the next movie, and he wasn't.
Mhm.
Complete waste of that villain. And some of the exposition heavy things I talked about before, and the Batman voice, Christian Bale got so ridiculous, going
Mhm.
meme heavy. So I don't know. I have my issue. Like, as much as I like him, I have my issues now.
Mhm.
with some of the Nolan films. So I'm
Mhm.
going Batman Returns, Batman Forever, The Batman, Dark Knight, original Batman, Tim Burton,
Mhm.
um, and then Batman Begins, then Dark Knight Rises, and then Batman and Robin. Those are the one, so like I didn't put in Mask of the Phantasm because I need to see that again. It's been
Mm.
years. I don't
Sure.
remember well enough.
Same.
Batman 1966, as fun as it is, that's not the Batman for me. So, and honestly, Batman and Robin, I could place higher in terms of my enjoyment factor, but in terms of good movie, no.
In terms of quality, yeah.
Yeah,
There's a difference between being entertained and recognizing, like, this is a good movie, because you can have good, bad movies,
yeah.
but they're still bad.
So, what how about you? What do am I
I would
wrong?
be
Where's yours go? Yeah.
No, I would be, I think, very close on what you've said. I think there are differences in where we rank things, but I'm very close on this. For me, The Dark Knight is number 1. Doesn't necessarily have to do with Batman. No, it doesn't. It's a lot of Heath Ledger's Joker. And just the whole experience of that movie for me, um, I just remember seeing it and sitting in the theater and just being like, "Oh my god." Like, nobody talked to me for at least 10 minutes. I have this feeling about this movie. I need to think, I need to process and feel, and it was just amazing. I loved it start to finish. So that's my number 1 for sure. Batman Returns would be my number 2. Um, I really love that movie, and it's hard. It's a hard choice to make, but it's so right up there. It's number 2. Um, I would say Batman Forever is my number 3. I love everything about that movie. I love the camp. It hits all the right notes. I mean, you and I have talked about why we love this movie more than other people do, and I do. Um, the Batman for me probably comes in at number 4 right now. Again, could that change over time? Could I, upon further reflection and seeing other Batmans again, maybe place it at number 5 if I wanted to switch it with um Batman Begins, maybe. But right now it's number 4, followed by Batman Begins, then The Batman. And then my list becomes a little like,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't
Like,
really
yeah.
know. Kind of drops off into, I think maybe this goes here, but like I haven't seen um Mask of the Phantasm in a really long time. I haven't seen even Batman v Superman, so I guess last. Batman and Robin, like I do enjoy the camp, but is it a good movie? Would I have to see it again and see Mask of Phantasm again to like place it where it goes? I don't know. So I don't
Mhm.
really, I don't know. I'm kind of taking the easy way out by not delineating after that, but that's, I would say, where my top goes. So yeah, the
Ye
Batman is definitely in my top 5 at a solid 4. It's just not quite cracking my top 3.
Sure. I mean, we go hard on DC movies a lot,
Mhm.
and deservedly so, I'd say. But at the same time, you look at this list and you talk about this. I mean, it, Batman with Jack Nicholson as the Joker maybe doesn't make it into our top 5 Batman movies.
Mhm.
Like that movie is amazing. That's a
Mhm.
great movie. And as time goes on, I appreciate more and more Jack Nicholson's portrayal of the Joker.
Yeah.
I like again the Tim Burton aesthetic, the Prince soundtrack. Like,
Mhm.
it's it's a really good movie, and so it speaks to the general quality of this character on the big screen.
Mhm.
I think that a movie like that can be halfway down the list, and ultimately, I'm pretty happy that one of the best American comic book characters has gotten the adaptations that it has. and with, to me, no signs of like really slowing down.
Mhm.
There's still room for different versions of what feels like Batman still.
Mhm.
um and I think that that's really cool. And I tell you, watch a lot of these movies repeatedly, and I
Mhm.
have over the years. Whereas Marvel stuff, I almost never rewatch them. I There's almost never a Marvel movie that I watched more than once. I've seen the Guardians movies more than once,
Mhm.
and
I see the Avengers movies more than once.
I
Just
I
it's
couldn't
it's
care
fun to
less.
I find I well, they I mean, they replay them so often on TV that,
Sure,
sometimes I just kind of catch them, but I do find it enjoyable to in a way, it feels like you can catch up with all of them at the same time. Like, you don't have to go watch their
mm,
individual movies to just, like, remember, like, what's going on
sure,
with them, so it's kind of weirdly nice that way to just, like, one fell swoop, like, "Right, there's Iron Man and Thor and Captain America
sure.
all," so it's that's kind of fun. But what the thought that just occurred to me as you were saying that is I feel like Marvel and DC have opposite problems in the sense of Marvel has a really hard time with Spider-Man. Their reboots of Spider-Man are very frustrating and very like soon after one another, and they're not always satisfying, and they don't feel like they get it right, so they keep rebooting Spider-Man. And they have great success with a lot of the rest of their canon of superheroes. DC feels like they have so many great Batmans, like, I was nervous about this one coming out because I was nervous about, like, another Batman and where it could go and how terribly wrong it could go in the light of other DC movies. Um, but they feel like they've really got so many great Batmans, and then they have a lot of problems with the rest of their canon of superheroes. Just a thought that occurred to me right now, maybe upon further reflection and further fleshing out, that doesn't hold true. But just in talking about this right now, it feels like there's some really great stuff happening there, and they're having a lot of issues with their other superheroes.
Well, I would tweak that in so the kind of general principle being holding true, but like the with different examples. So Spider-Man, I mean, the reason we got that is because for a while it was Sony's job. Sony held the rights, so
Yeah, I
Sony was the
know.
one that was failing at keeping that going, or switching a lot. And so then when it got, we're going to incorporate this in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we get another one. Um, I will say though that I think that DC's managed to take standalone movies and make some really good ones. I would put some of these Batman movies above anything Marvel has done over the course of the last
But
decade
Batman.
plus. But Batman, right?
Yeah, that's what
And
I'm
and
saying. Like Batman is their core that they keep
yep.
doing well. It's the other ones that they have problems with. And I'm just saying, like, I feel like broadly they have in their canons different problems. Like Marvel
Yeah.
needs to figure out what the hell is going on with Spider-Man, and DC needs to figure out what the hell is going on with everybody except Batman.
Well, Marvel's good at connecting them, keeping them together and on a same timeline, and all
Mhm.
that stuff. Whereas whereas DC is good when they try not to do that. They
Mhm.
tell a standalone story. They tell a Joker movie. They have the Batman. This didn't need to tie into anything else in the DCEU to get watered down or to have to like fit into a tone or a whatever. Like it can be its own thing and its own little series or whatever they make of it. And
Mhm.
Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman is an amazing movie. I love the first Wonder Woman movie.
You love the
Um,
first
and
Wonder Woman movie.
yes, right. Um, but so like they can have success with these things when they're on their own, if they, at times. Um, but they
Yeah.
just can never get the connected thing right, you know?
Yeah, I guess I would go further and say, like, yeah, they can. Again, like I'm gonna exclude Batman because I already feel like they do that well, so I'm just gonna like leave it out and say they've had semi success in other standalone movies. Wonder Woman, I think, was a great success. Wonder Woman 1984, not so much. When I look at other movies, it just doesn't become apparent for me. Like the Superman
Mhm.
movies, I didn't think worked out. Having not, I guess, seen Batman versus Superman. Um, but yeah, and then I guess I like the Flash more than I thought I would. I thought Aquaman was great fun, though not necessarily like a broadly great movie.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean it was okay. I don't know.
I
It just
like
it just wasn't.
Aquaman more than most of the Marvel movies too, honestly. I really had fun
Mm.
with that.
I had fun with Jason Momoa and
I
his
liked
like
all the elements. I
portrayal,
mean,
his
we
whole
we had
presence.
yeah, Amber Heard played the role well. I like, what's his
Mm,
face
yeah.
as, the competition there, can't think of his name,
Patrick Wilson?
yes, Patrick Wilson, he's good in
Yeah.
everything, and, I just Willem Dafoe, Nicole Kidman, like, it's a great cast, and I think that the movie just like,
Julie
everything you
Andrews
want from it.
actually as the creature thing was my was my top.
Okay, that was your favorite?
Like, just a random WTF casting for this, giant sea monster thing that was like, "I'm gonna get you all." That's Mary Poppins just crushing
Whoa.
everybody.
Renato says Aquaman was a poor man's Black Panther.
Whoa!
Oh,
Shots fired.
shots fired. I disagree heavily. I think Black Panther is one of the most overrated of the Marvel films,
Ooh,
hands down.
I disagree with overrated for sure. I loved Black Panther. Um, I mean, overrated is hard though, like because I like Black Panther way better than I like, say, Thor: Dark World, but nobody rates Thor: Dark
Oh,
World
yeah.
very highly.
Right,
Do you know what I mean?
right.
So
Yeah,
yeah, so now I'm trying to figure out like how I talk about it in terms of like, do I like it more than most Marvel movies, or do I like it because it's obviously better than a lot of bad Marvel movies?
right.
Um, yeah, so I mean, there's definitely nuance. I said a broad blanket statement, and there's definitely more nuance when you do look into like the movies that Marvel and DC have made. But I think I stand by um the sense of like Marvel has a lot of shit figured out. They just need this like one character to have his solo movies get figured out. And DC has one character that they've figured out great solo movies for. They just need to figure out great group movies, and they do need to like kind of step up their game. We'll see now that we're getting like a new roster of solo superhero movies if they figured those out too. You know what I mean?
Well,
Now
they're
that we're getting
delayed,
like,
so
well,
it's
now
not a
that
good sign, but
right, I know. Again, though, I don't really know what they're delayed for because they can't be
yeah,
reworking the whole GD movie at this point.
no.
Um, but yeah, we're gonna get Black Adam, we're gonna get Flash, we're gonna get movies. So we'll see if they've got something now figured out for solo superhero movies, like they figured out with the Batman. They keep consistently doing Batman well. Can they
Yep,
now shift that to other superheroes?
yep. I don't know. Alright. Well, we've talked for over 2.5 hours. We had a lot of news
This was
stories
never
and a lot
gonna
of
be
different stuff,
short
so
about the
tangents,
Batman.
no, it's never gonna be short. No, that's right. And I definitely have more things to say, so, I mean, we're doing good the way it is, I think.
Mhm.
Um, but that's been the Batman, 2022's Matt Reeves, the Batman. Edward Cullen. I saw a sign, for a movie theater. If it was real, I don't know, but it was clever nonetheless. Is like, um, Robert Pattinson is the worst vampire ever because it took him 14 years to become a bat. So
That's great, that's great.
yeah, it's good. So, anyways, that's been Popcast on the Rocks, episode 98. We're approaching 100 very quickly. You should stay tuned because in the coming weeks, we're going to finish off the finale of season 2 of Raised by Wolves. We're going to be talking about that. I'm sure there's a lot of other TV shows and movies to discuss coming out. So stay tuned for that. Please leave comments, subscribe, like, share, all those sorts of things on all the social media platforms, whether it's on Twitch or YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Feel free to tweet at us. I've been tweeting pictures from photo mode of Horizon Forbidden West, all that kind of thing. So go ahead and please do that. Um, let's see. Let's see what else. Killing the Flower, they wrote our theme song. You should make sure to go and take a look at them on Spotify, YouTube, or Instagram. We thank them very much. You can find us in audio podcast format on a ton of podcast directories. If you listen there, please leave a review. That helps us out a lot. And that'll about do it. Otherwise, that was the Batman and our show. Andrea, thanks again for joining me.
Of course, as always. Cheers, everybody.